What's going on again, everybody? It's Pat Voss, and welcome back to JCT Official. That's right, Just Chill Truth. It's all truth all the time. My truth, my true opinions. In my solo shows that I run, I do little vlogs here, as you guys know, on YouTube. You can also check me out at Just Chill Truth on Instagram and Twitter. So don't forget those, like Bruno Mars tells you to. Go ahead and check me out, Just Chill Truth, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, under the same name. And I'm joined by a very great interview guest today. We are starting to become buddies over talks before the interview. He is a diehard MMA fan, mixed martial arts fan, pro Conor in this fight, a huge basketball fan. He loves life. He hails from upstate New York. It's Matt Humphrey. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, Pat, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your show. I'm very impressed. The name alone speaks volumes, and I think that you back it up. So I've enjoyed your interviews thus far.
I appreciate it. I'm glad you had time to come on today. I mean, it's been a crazy, from my side of things, it's been crazy trying to get interviews leading up through fight week all the way through Saturday. I think I even have an interview Saturday morning, the morning of the fights. So it is pretty nuts, but to be able to talk to you and sit with you and talk about a few things we're going to cover today. The first thing we wanted to cover today with these interview series is obviously the May-Mac confrontation that's going to be happening, the Mayweather-McGregor fight, the boxing match rather, on Saturday, August 26th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. When you heard that this was going to happen and it was for sure signed over, or maybe you want to take us a little bit farther than that, but when it was signed over, what were your thoughts and what kind of went through your head there?
I was once you think that Conor has done it all and there can't be like a higher ceiling, he does it again, and he pulls it off again. There's old interviews with him that date back in early UFC interviews that I saw him mentioning this even before the 2-year back and forth, and all the doubters, all the people that said it wouldn't come, my gut always told me it's going to come, and especially with him delivering time and time again, and of course being the draw and Mayweather being drawn to the draw of money that Conor brings. And that's a whole nother discussion there just on that topic alone, motives. But go ahead.
No, and I wanted to say something about the what you just said, Mayweather being drawn to the draw that Conor gets, and it is true. Even today, it was undisputed with Skip and Shannon, and they had Dana White on. And Dana said, look, if you don't think this fight, if you think that Conor's a joke, you don't think this fight is a serious fight, you're dead wrong. And second, if Conor McGregor doesn't agree to this fight and doesn't want this fight, Floyd doesn't get paid $300 million.
100%.
His money doesn't happen either if Conor doesn't come and fight this fight. So I think people, they look at it from the wrong perspective. And I don't want to say anybody's perspective is completely wrong unless we're talking about other certain issues in life. But as far as this fight goes, to call it a joke right off the bat is ridiculous. And Mayweather is a joke too in himself, because in a way, no matter who roots for him in his early career and leading up through, some things he said, like Conor McGregor and I are both fighters at the end of the day. Never try to pump up your opponent. If you're going to get in a ring, whether it's an octagon, whether it's a boxing ring, whatever, if you're going to get in and you're going to exchange punches with someone, I'm not going to uplift them, honestly, until after the fight. I'm not going to say anything that could possibly seem like I'm soft or like I'm not ready for the fight. I don't want to say anything that makes anybody doubt my methods and my actions and my willingness to do this fight. If I say, stop talking down about him, it's like the popular kid in school saying, well, it's not necessarily, because Conor, to me, is the bigger star right now. Even though Mayweather's being paid like the A side, he is in fact the B side in this fight, popularity wise. but it was like what I was going to say was it's like the popular kid telling everybody not to pick on the dorky kid and saying, oh, don't do it. He's had a hard enough time as it is already. But at the end of the day, he's still a person. And that's kind of what he's doing. He's backhanded like compliments that he's giving to McGregor and about McGregor are getting a little old, and it's kind of pissing me off, to be honest. And that's another reason why I hope and I believe that on Saturday Conor gets in there and knocks him out in the first 3 rounds. I think he sees it. He sees what he's doing, and the backhanded compliments will end August 26th.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about this whole thing is the passive aggressive nature of Floyd. He thinks you can see his bravado. He thinks he's slick. He's running this like psychology game that Conor sees right through. It's and anybody with what I guess I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this at all.
Oh yeah.
Bullshit dar. Most people can see right through all of that, unless of course you're on the payroll of the team, or there's other motivations for being pro Floyd. But yeah, in terms of A side, I mean, the only argument you can make for Floyd being A side is seniority. It's his supposed world, this boxing world,
right?
But other than that, in terms of popularity, no, he would not produce what we're producing right now if it was not for Conor. Conor is the A side right now, period. And when he knocks him out, he's going to not only be the popular, and he's going to be even a more, if you can imagine Conor even being more popular.
Yeah.
There's the whole theory about his legacy, Floyd's legacy being tarnished, almost like the effect that happened to the Aldo after 13-second knockout. It's like, but then the excuses start to roll, and that's getting pretty frustrated. A lot of I come from a mixed martial arts background in terms of love for all of the arts since I was a kid. I mean, old karate movies, watching even believe it or not, pro wrestling. I was a diehard pro wrestling fan. That got me into my own, like actually becoming a wrestler as a young lad, and sports and things, and all those fundamentals, and always following all types of fighting. And you said it in the beginning about boxing, and yes, this is a sanctioned boxing match, but it truly is going to be a fight. Conor is going to make it a fight, and Mayweather thinks he's just going to go through these skills and these traditions that boxing has become so specialized and narrowed in, and Conor is going to dance around those traditions and become the cup and do it legally, but he's going to fight him, and I think the world is going to be in for a shock.
And that's the thing. I don't think the world should be shocked, and you and I talked about this before this interview and before this discussion, that anybody that's shocked over this kind of deal that don't know McGregor first, they're ridiculous.
Isn't this familiar? Doesn't this feel like what we went through when Conor came into? I mean, he was doubted in his old promotions, even like Cage Warriors. He had to fight bigger guy. I mean, he's been doubted his whole career.
Right.
In the UFC, he finally, some of his cohorts are finally starting to give him some more respect. Although a lot of them have short memories, and they go right back to the hating and having to eat their words. Well, but now the boxing community is going through this whole denial thing. Conor's a joke, the Joker, the clown.
Yep. Well, and
He
that's the
is a
thing is
skilled
Aldo, and
fighter.
like we discussed as well, when Aldo got knocked out in 13 seconds, he had a chance to come back and redeem himself and unify the title again after Conor left it to go
Yes.
fight Diaz at welterweight and also come down to 155 to beat Eddie Alvarez for the lightweight title. So Aldo had another shot against Max Holloway, a guy that Conor McGregor made it look like an easy bout against, and he got beat against Holloway. Holloway beat him. So I think that's it. That probably overall tarnished Aldo's record and his legacy, because for 10 years, for a decade, he was undefeated. He only had one loss on his career before then. And then McGregor comes in and KOs him with a left in 13 seconds. I think that it's kind of like, and I hate to say it, I don't know if it necessarily tarnishes. Okay, let me back up a little bit. Maybe it doesn't tarnish Aldo's record because he was a mixed martial artist. He could go to the ground, he could strike, he could do all these things, and he did it for years. So for us to say as MMA fans to say that Aldo shouldn't, if some people think Aldo shouldn't be respected now as a mixed martial artist or whatever, I disagree, because now someone like Ronda Rousey, who won the majority of her bouts by armbar, by submission, and then got her ass handed to her by Holly Holm, and then came back and got her ass handed to her even quicker by Amanda Nunes. That is a broken fighter. That was a broken fighter. That is someone who now is going to retire and walk away from the sport of mixed martial arts. Like that's a hell of a beating to take, that you want to walk away from something you were a perfect record at before you lost to Holly Holm. Like, that's amazing. That's amazing. That tells you something about her character too, and her mental state on that. That she was not in it. Her heart wasn't in it. It was, I'm trying to help Dana White put something on the map, and in the women's divisions, and at least in bantamweight. And now I'm undefeated. I'm the champ. I'm the only champ they've had. And now I've taken 2 huge beatings in a row, and it's over. I think she figured once she's off the top of the mountain, that's it. There's no climbing back. There's a whole bunch of shifting around in the women's divisions of who has the belt and who doesn't. And I think she realizes that, and she wants to get out now before she's climbing back from a 5 fight win streak and doesn't get another shot at the title before she retires. I don't think, and all of her fights basically have been for title fights. All of her UFC fights have been title fights. And the fact that she lost the last 2 and now has the equal amount of losses, the equal amount of losses as with Aldo. I'm sorry, that's wrong. Aldo has 3 losses, but I don't know why she runs away. It's like Conor when he tapped out twice in his pro career early on, though, in his pro career early on, trying to learn styles, trying to be that guy, trying to find that persona, trying to find that left hand, whatever it was that he had to find, he was trying to find it, and he was submitted twice, never knocked out. He did go the distance, I think, a couple times, and he ended up winning those bouts as well. But he had never been knocked out before. And really, the closest thing we've seen to a knockout of Conor was the first Diaz fight, where he was really taking it to him there in the end of the first and the second round. I mean, Diaz was nonstop on McGregor's face, all over the place, and he gassed out and he got caught. So, that's the closest we've ever seen him to defeat, and then he gets choked out in the first fight. But then he comes right back 6 months later and fights and beats him by decision and goes the full distance with a guy that was heavier than him and supposedly has more fight in him than McGregor. Goes the distance and wins the fight, comes and cuts weight from 170 down 15 pounds and wins the fight easily against Eddie Alvarez. So for people to doubt his strength and his willingness to continue and his willingness to get it done until the job's done, like keep hitting until the job's done, that's what he's done all his career. So whether he has to submit, which is something funny that I thought Mayweather did bring up in the press conference tours, he said it was Mr. Tap Out. Mr. Tap Out likes to quit. Well, unless you can get him in a rear naked choke, I don't think you're going to win that fight, Floyd. He's undefeated. And even Floyd says it, which I think was stupid of him to say, but to bring to everybody's attention, and I know he's trying to sell the fight because ticket sales inside the stadium were not doing well, but pay-per-view buys are going to smash the record. But ticket sales were doing terribly, so he says Conor McGregor is undefeated standing up.
Right.
Why would you do that to yourself? Now you see in Las Vegas, and I'm sorry I'm making too many points. I'll slow down here in a second. Give me 1 second. I'll slow down.
No, you're
but
good.
The Las Vegas sports books are saying they're going to take a huge loss if McGregor wins. They're going to take a huge loss, even though there's more money. There's a slightly more money on Mayweather, but the Mayweather people are going to lose their money, which whatever. But then the McGregor people are going to get their money, which is 95-5 right now in Las Vegas. By a majority of sports books in Vegas, 95% of bets have been placed on McGregor. And we are 2 days away from the fight.
And part of that is what concerns me. It concerns me about if McGregor were to take it. Let's say hypothetically they do go the distance, and clearly Conor is dominating. He's the more aggressive. He's landing the more impactful shots, and he definitely has the cardio. He is in the absolute best shape he has ever been in his entire life and career. With this McGregor Fast program, the bar just keeps getting raised and raised and raised. I mean, when he did the 12 rounds on the bags that people have been making fun of him about, because they have no clue about his style of fighting and striking and how methodical it was and how hard those punches were. But I mean, if you looked at, he wasn't even breathing heavy, and he was fresh and ready to go. He could have done another 12 right then and there in front of everybody. He doesn't do the flash and the show with the speed bag. And I wanted to make a comment quickly on Ronda, just backing up a little bit.
Sure.
Early on, I saw, and even on some documentaries, there was some of the things that introduced Ronda to us, even with the Diaz brothers. And it was very clear that Ronda's ego or her personality type was very delicate, almost kid glove-like. And she put a lot of stock in this whole retiring undefeated. When that did not come to fruition, it rocked her entire sense of who am I and what am I? And, instead of doing the Kavanaugh win or learn approach, which if she had that type of tutelage and culture, she went into hiding and, now she's ignoring and has been ignoring the MMA media and just going on these big shows and being artificial and superficial. That's not the Ronda that started out that really revolutionized women's MMA. I mean, it just really rocked her psyche. And that concerned me. It really did. Just as even Cormier's recent knockout certainly concerned me and a lot of others. And thankfully, he has the support circle and the courage to begin processing it with all of us as a community, and we do care. And, I'm not talking bad about boxing. I grew up on boxing. That's another one that I absolutely love. I mean, watching the Alis. I mean, Conor talked about how he used to go, Muhammad Ali. I remember doing that as a kid against my friends too, when we would fight, or Mike Tyson, but fake fighting or real fighting,
right.
Using some of those terms and whatnot, but just really getting into the sport. Boxing is a wonderful sport. McGregor knows boxing very well, and he's going to bring it to whole new heights and take it out of the specialization and open it up to whole new avenues that we haven't seen in quite some time. I think they were more innovative in the black and white days. If you watch some of those old boxing matches, which are actually very entertaining.
I think, and something you said back real quick, one, I would like to say, yes, I think that Conor McGregor will take this to new heights and take the boxing world by storm. Not to say that he may not even fight another boxing match. He may just promote MMA fighters and boxers as they grow up through the ranks, and with McGregor Sports and Entertainment. So, he might very well walk away from boxing after defeating the best defensive boxer of all time. He might walk away. But here's something I wanted to say. You were saying earlier, if he starts taking over and he clearly dominates in 12 rounds, let me just say this. If Conor is clearly dominating, that thing doesn't go 12 rounds.
That's true.
There's no way, if Conor is the dominant force in that fight, there's no way it goes 12 rounds.
It would be a miracle if Floyd was still standing after 12 rounds. Truly a miracle. And there would be some delay, because he would drop. So the ref would have to do a couple real slow counts. And there would have to
be ready for that too. Be ready for that too. On August 26th. Be ready.
But that's what I guess I didn't finish my point on that. And I thank you for bringing that back around, because that's my biggest concern is if it goes to the judges. With all the money, I just don't Conor not being from boxing. I see Floyd taking it. Controversial.
Even they try to give it a close, like split decision or majority decision, I still see it. Going Floyd's way, only because this whole thing regularly is sponsored by Mayweather Promotions. It's his promotion company. It's his promotion company. They're in Vegas. The Vegas sports books are the ones that say they're going to be hurting if McGregor wins. They're going to judges in this Vegas arena. Why else would it go to Conor? Like, Conor does have to come in and knock him out. He cannot go in and expect a decision, because honestly, you've seen how Manny Pacquiao got screwed out of I think it was the 2014 or 2015 bout with Floyd. He got screwed. So I don't believe that at the end of the day, if they go to decision, and even if Conor was, let's say, 7-5 dominance, I've seen people, the guy who bitches way too much, Paulie Malignaggi. I've seen him in fights the first Diaz fight that he fought, him and I forget, Juan Diaz, I think is his name, in his weight class. And he fought him the first fight. And even Max Kellerman said, we scored it 7-5 in favor of you, Paulie, but the judges gave it to Diaz the first fight. Then they fought again, and it was another split decision. It was another split decision, but this time it went to Malignaggi. So I don't know if we can really trust judges anymore. I don't think we can trust judges. I don't even care about the referee, because I do think there would be a lot of slow counts if Mayweather does hit the mat, because people don't want it to be over in 30 seconds. Well, I don't think a lot of bettors and a lot of fans of the sport are going to want it to be over in 30 seconds. Now, it might be okay for me, because this Saturday is, of course, my bachelor party with my father and my other groomsmen. So
congratulations.
30 seconds. If at 11 o'clock at night or 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, this fight starts, and by 11:05 the fight's over, then cool. I'll grab my $100 from my best man, and we'll go out and have a good time. Like, that's honestly the way I feel about it. It could go all 12 rounds, or it could go 10 rounds and be finished. I don't care. As long as Conor gets in there and does what he says he's going to do. That's the biggest thing for me. As long as he gets in and finishes Mayweather. I don't care whether it's the first round or in the 12th and he goes down for the count. Like, I need him to finish him. And not need him to. I mean, $100 is $100. If I lose the $100, so be it. But it's all a principle of this guy. McGregor has been talking about this fight way longer than Mayweather's even thought about this fight, and he knew. I think at the Diaz fight, asking for the second Diaz fight, I think he even knew, hey, after this Diaz fight, I probably want to go drag, Floyd Mayweather out of bed. Oh, well, Eddie Alvarez says, that they're going to give you a shot at Eddie's title. Okay, I'll go down and take it. But next step is Floyd, because he knows he can make the payday off of it. And even Coach Kavanaugh said in the interview, it's after this fight, it's not going to be about money. It's going to be about heart. What does he love to do? Is it going to be promoting? Is it going to be back in the boxing ring? Is it going to be back in the octagon? And I truly believe, like Coach Kavanaugh said, that he will go back to MMA for maybe a couple fights. That's honestly what I think. I don't think Conor is long for the octagon. I think he'll go in, he'll defend his lightweight title against the winner of Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson. He may go after Khabib, but if Khabib pulls out of the fight, we don't know. I mean, we don't know how that's going to go down.
Right.
But he fights the winner of Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson. Then his last fight of his career, let me just mark my words now, is, what is it? August 24th, 2017. Mark my words right now. The last fight of his career will not be a Nate Diaz trilogy. The last fight of his career will be a rematch against Jose Aldo. That will be the last fight. That will be the fight that he goes out on, is a Jose Aldo rematch.
Do you think?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, do you see Jose getting his title back?
No, it will not be for the title. It will be a separate matchup with Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor. And hell, if Conor beats the winner of Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson, if he beats them and unifies that lightweight title, I mean, who's to say that Jose Aldo doesn't bump up a few pounds and go face him for his lightweight title for his last fight of his career?
And he has talked about that.
He has. He was thinking about coming up to lightweight.
Yes.
Again.
Yes.
So I see that Conor McGregor maybe at the most has 3 fights left in him in the UFC. Probably 3 fights. That's about it.
Because he goes to boxing after?
Nope. He goes to promoting.
Okay.
He'll do the Floyd Mayweather thing. He will. And I hate to compare it to Floyd, because Floyd, outside of being a great defensive boxer, is a total douchebag. In real life, he, as a person, not a boxer, as a person, as not an athlete, he is not a good dude.
Character.
His character, not a good dude.
A man of integrity. So he does some good charitable work. I mean, attaboy, turn around. And I will pat you on the back for that. And I hope that you transform many, many lives, and you should when you have what you have. However, the truth is, when nobody's looking, that's who you really are. That's the definition of true character. And I think that with Floyd, he wants everybody looking, and he doesn't care what they see in his character, honestly. And we see what he's about. Well,
and can I say this? And I know people at home are going to take this incorrectly, but and just so you know, and people that know me, my fiance, Black, my daughter's mom, same. My daughter is mixed. I don't take this the way that people are going to think that I mean this. Mayweather is the Black Trump. He is the African-American version of Trump in a way. And what I mean by that is he's wealthy, and he doesn't care what other people – like, he cares what people think of him because, like you said, he wants to do it out in public like Trump does on Twitter. But he doesn't mind being an ass and he knows he can get away with it. And that's the biggest thing, I think, is that he knows he can get away with it. And Mayweather, McGregor talks a lot of trash, yes, but to get inside the head of the opponent, to do stuff like that. Outside of the ring, Conor loves his girlfriend. He loves his son. He's got a family now. He's going to be making $100+ million off this fight. Like, come on. The guy is going to set up his family for life.
Yes.
Here's the other thing, though, and I will say this publicly. If Conor ever puts his hand on a woman, I will disown him so fast. I won't even – the story will come out. 10 minutes later, I will have a video out on YouTube on it. Guaranteed. I don't want any affiliation with anybody that has anything to do with domestic abuse. I really don't. And with Floyd, if he was smart, which obviously he's proven that he's not, yet he wants to call himself a businessman and he crunches numbers and he's going to make $300 million off this fight. Yeah, but with Conor McGregor's help.
Smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors.
It's exactly right. So he could run foundations all he wants all his life for battered women and women's homes and stuff like that. He could do that if he was intelligent. And he opens a fucking strip club.
Remorseful. Do you see any remorse?
Not at all. And the thing is I'm not here to, necessarily bash Floyd, but I'll tell you this.
Right.
If I, which I wouldn't, but if I ever got myself involved in what he got himself involved in with his ex, no. You have I think he has 4 kids, which is fine. That's not what I'm saying. The point is, if you're going to try to be a role model to kids, if you're going to say this is how your dad worked hard to get what he got and whatever else, well, outside of the ring, you have to be a role model too, because you can't just be the undefeated boxer dad. That can't be it. It has to be both sides. And if you're not willing to give both sides, then get the fuck out of parenthood, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not, excuse me. It's, with his daughter, the most amazing thing I think I saw at the press conferences was his daughter was standing right there next to him while they're going through this mental warfare boxing game back and forth with each other. And, there's no reason for her to be out there. There's no reason for her to be out there. She's standing there and in Toronto, I mean, Floyd has the crowd count to 3 and then says, fuck the Mayweathers right to Floyd's face. And his daughter is standing right off his shoulder. If he was an intelligent human being, again, I say, but he's not, you don't bring your family around. If they want to watch that shit on YouTube, because it was free. If you're on Showtime, if you go on to Showtime's YouTube page and you subscribe, and it'll give you the little notifications on each video of all 4 press conferences, you can see all that stuff for free. So his daughter and his 2 daughters and his 2 sons could go see that for free. Could go see that on YouTube. They don't need to be standing next to him while he's getting embarrassed by and this is why I think it's Mayweather wants to make it seem like it was racially motivated, because he's trying to teach his kids and people around him, look, see, the white guy said something bad. Hey, the white guy said something that I don't agree with. And by the way, he never called Mayweather or any African-American person a monkey. He was actually talking to the 2 white bodyguards that were standing next to Floyd Mayweather. So it had nothing to do with race.
And it goes back to a Jimmy Kimmel interview a while back where he was talking about a circus in the movie Rocky, and he thought that there was a scene because in most circuses there's monkeys, so he was just he was envisioning monkeys in a circus.
And see, when he says it like that, though, unfortunately, that does sound a little racist. That he's making an excuse for that Jimmy Kimmel thing. But the thing I'm talking about is when he says. When he says at the London press conference, he goes over to those 2 guys alongside the ropes and says, you juice-head monkey and you juice-head monkey. Now, he's talking directly to the white bodyguards. He's not talking to the African-American gentleman next to the white bodyguards because he points directly at those guys, points directly at them and walks away and says, I can't believe you pay these fools a wage. That's it. And that's after that is when Mayweather got on public record and said he called us monkeys. No, he never did. Never did.
Well, and he was doing the race thing even prior to. If you watch some of the scrums after each, even in New York, he was winding it up. He was perpetuating it, and he's using his own daughter as a pawn. I mean, how sick and twisted is that? Narcissistic, sociopathic, however you want to call it, when you use people like that. And that's how he uses many people in his life, as these little pawns. It's always a game. It's always premeditated. Where Conor, when he's talking, it's very tactical. It's intentional. There's a method, but it's not phony, premeditated.
So wait, no, but here, let me correct you on that, though. So both of them are premeditated, but in a different way. What you're saying is Conor is meaning it to play psychological warfare, but nothing racist, no racial undertones. But then when Floyd does things in his life or along the sides of boxing or promoting, it all has to do with how can I use this guy?
But I do agree. think that there is a degree of premeditation with Connor. I think he thinks about certain things, but he really is. He's from the gut. He's from the high. He goes with the energy. He's like a freestyle rapper in a lot of ways. People don't give him enough credit for just being who he is, and that's who is Connor. It's the same guy. He may not be as brash all the time, but he's very witty. He talks his game. He's very confident, and admittingly, he can be arrogant at times too.
Well, and that's what I thought leading up to the Jose Aldo fight, because that's one of the first times I saw him. Now, I saw him knock out Marcus Brimage. I saw him knock out Brimage.
Yeah.
I saw him knock out Diego Brandao.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that was it until the fight. No, and I'm sorry. And I saw the what's his name? Who he knocked out to become interim champ. Oh, Chad Mendes.
Chad.
So I saw the Mendes fight. So Diego Brandao, Marcus Brimage, and Chad Mendes leading up to the fight with Aldo. So I'm like, well, this guy can knock him out. But then some of the shit he was doing with Aldo, and there was one thing he did say that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, which was during one of the press conferences. He was saying he's the king, and he was calling Connor the Joker, and Connor turns around and says, if this was a different time, my people would raid your village on horseback and kill anybody not fit to work. But since it's not, I'm just going to whoop your ass in July. And that sort of, that was straight up, saying, hey, my people would have killed your people if this was a different time and place. It's like, dude, you don't need to say some shit like that, though.
That was up there.
Some people think that monkey comment was racially motivated. I think that's why they think that, because he said some dumb shit in the past, like what I just quoted.
Yes, I do agree. There's definitely controversy, and he pushes the envelope like no other. There's no question. I'm definitely not saying that he is perfect. I'm not typical, like Connor does no wrong, like the classic. I see you're just a dick rider, that sort of thing. I can be a realist. He is a human being, and we learned about some of that even during the Diaz fight. We learned some of his human side, but that was the best thing that could have ever happened for him. And if Ronda would have taken that approach, as I was saying before, I think that we would have seen a different fighter in there, even against Nunes. I think that she would have put up a different fight. I think she would have fired her coach. I know Connor says stick with your team, and you should, unless it's the blind leading the blind, which in her case, I think her loyalty got in the way a little bit. Not that she doesn't have responsibility, but
let me say something real quick, and we're going to move on for a little bit, and we're going to do the predictions here.
Sure.
And then we'll move on to our next subject. But the main thing I wanted to touch on was, the EA Sports, like the Madden curse, the supposed Madden curse.
Yes.
When there's cover athletes and they get hurt or something happens.
Or like Sports Illustrated, that was a classic. Wheaties Box was one out there before, but yes, go ahead.
Right. So, but focused on the EA Sports one, Ronda Rousey was featured and lost to Holly Holm. Right after she was featured, she got her ass kicked by Holly Holm. The fight that got McGregor on the cover of UFC 2 with Ronda Rousey was his 13-second knockout of Jose Aldo. Because if Jose would have won that fight, he would have been the cover athlete with Ronda Rousey. That fight was to determine it. So after he did that, but the first fight after he's the cover athlete is the first Diaz fight.
Right. Remember those memes without their faces on the cover of the
I don't know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I really don't know, because after it didn't affect Connor as much after. So he lost the second round submission, victory to lost to Diaz, but then came back and beat him in decision, then went and beat Eddie. Now he's trying to beat Floyd. So this will be 3, combat sports victories in a row after the loss, after the cover. So it's not necessarily, complete, but for Ronda, oh man, her first 2 matches after the cover of the athlete, were 2 straight losses, and she's not coming back.
And brutal.
So that's one thing I wanted to put out there. And another thing is about the Floyd Mayweather and the racial undertones and all that stuff. Cutting out, and I understand, I'm a white male. People look at me differently when I say shit like this because of, and I hate to say because of my skin tone, but because of what it is thought of now and the racial divide between white and black. I think that's a racial divide mentally for a lot of people. So let me just cut this down. Cut all the bullshit out.
Right.
At the end of the fucking day, I am 110% correct about Floyd being the African-American version of Trump, or that arrogant, wealthy, I can do what I want and I really don't care because I can get away with it attitude, which America proved he can get away. Trump could get away with it because he said a lot of nasty shit in his campaign and gets elected president. Mayweather has beaten on a woman. He did serve. He was convicted of a crime. The thing is, though, after that's over, he, instead of showing compassion towards females and things like that, what does he do? He goes and opens a strip club. So he said, I want to leave a legacy for my kids. Well, what legacy are you leaving? You're leaving a douchebag father who hit his ex and a child's mother right in front of the kid, who then opens a strip club and is cocky and flashy and says it's all about the money. And you think that's a legacy to leave your kids? Your kids are going to grow up so self-entitled and already at that point that by the time they get to, my age, even, because I'm 20, I'll be 29 in October. So when they get to my age, these kids are going to have a silver spoon up their ass so far that they're not going to know the real world if it bit them in the ass. So I'm worried about those kids. I really am. I'm worried about the Mayweather kids because I think that's going to be an issue later on in life, that people are going to end up hating the kids because the kids are going to act just like their father. And I think they deserve a fresh start as children that are of not the same generation. They're not, the same person as their father. So I think they deserve a shot at another, like a better chance at life. And just throwing money at them and saying there's a money legacy and they're going to run Mayweather Promotions, or they're going to help, or they're going to this or that. Well, you're basically making their career for them. You're not giving them any options. You're plotting out their career for them, kind of like an arranged marriage, and you're making and forcing them to do one thing and one thing only, and that's basically even honor you after you're dead. Like, that's kind of what it is. It is all about Mayweather Jr. all the time. I mean, that is what it is. And
sadly,
I hate that it's like that. Again, I hope Conor Jr. and I hope Conor doesn't raise his son like that because, or he and Dee don't raise their son like that, because I know Conor, it was joking around and put his kid, it was real cute on Twitter, I think it was. He put his kid in the fucking suit and the glasses. It was great. But he did say, my son will rule MMA. And I'm thinking, I hope he doesn't force his kid to learn mixed martial arts because he wants them to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah, and I think that there is definitely, the fathers, especially having a boy, I think there is that dream for him for sure. But even more importantly, I've heard him quote the importance of, I don't want my son to grow up with the entitlement of because he's set for life. So he wants to teach those that, like, hard work is what got Conor where he is at. Clearly, loads and loads. It's not just his raw talent that he brings or his athleticism, but work and day in and day out of getting out of those now satin sheets and still putting it in the grind.
Well, here's the thing, though, and I will say this, and this is a credit to my father, Ed Voss. He has a tattoo, and it's something that his dad used to say. Grandfather, who I've never met, actually, passed away right before I was born. So I never got to meet him, but his phrase was, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And in the world that my dad is from, in the world that my dad's dad was from, in the world shit that I come from, honestly, it is true in a lot of ways. I can have a lot of knowledge about sports, but do I think I'm going to be working for ESPN in a year? No. Now, if I knew, if I had connections, more connections through the world, if I could get a hold of my guy Mike Pendleton, who does the MP podcast, the Chicago Live podcast from the city, maybe I'd have a shot, because if I ended up on his podcast, if I ended up on his Friday night shows, yeah, there's a chance that I could end up working for someone in the industry in Chicago. I mean, because of the kind of contacts that he has. But that is one thing I will say. With Conor, after he did the hard work to get called up to the UFC, I think it is a lot of, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Because honestly, with him becoming so buddy-buddy with Dana White, not saying he didn't deserve any of those fights because he put people away in those fights. It's just that he knows he has that desire, like I have, going after Coach Kavanaugh for an interview or going after someone else for an interview. I have a desire to get it done. And I think people can see that. And they see it in Conor, and Dana White sees it in Conor, and I think that's why he was okay with, when this really was going to get inked, he's okay with being a co-promoter in the UFC. I don't think he has any reason to not be.
And backing it up time and time again.
Backing
up what he's saying. Just one last thing on Floyd and the whole legal issue. And I'm not a Floyd basher. I was definitely, and I'm a boxing fan. I appreciated Floyd and his legacy and what he has done. Outside of the ring, I don't appreciate. He still hasn't really owned it. He still is like, where are the pictures? Where's the evidence? He still denies some of this stuff. I've heard, many interviews where he's skirted. He's sugar-coated maybe some admissions, but certainly I don't see a lot of remorse there. And I'm hoping that, kids are either going to become a product of the environment, or they're going to rise above it and, do the opposite of what their parents' mistakes are. And
and even like with the Ray Rice case, Ray Rice, I mean, he knocked his girlfriend out cold, and it was on video. And he was remorseful about it. Even if he didn't, and this, the worst part is, I almost don't believe that they're remorseful about it, because if you're willing to, even though the girlfriend really shouldn't have come at him like that, and I'm not saying he should have knocked her out cold, but I'm just saying I've been in that situation before in life, and your first thought isn't, let me back out of the way. Your first thought is, how do I restrain the situation so I'm not going to get, bit or clawed at or hit in the face or whatever, because a lot of women in the heat of a battle, whether it be and guys too, whether it be a verbal scuffle that then turns violent, they'll go for anything. They'll try to do anything to hurt you physically.
Well,
that's the difference. We're not willing to do anything physically to hurt back. We're willing to restrain. If you're a good guy, you're trying to restrain the situation. You're trying to either, hold them like, hey, don't do that. Or, hey, you got a couple shots in, now stop, let's stop. Instead of him going, shove you and slam you. And he did. He did shove her, and then he threw a shot. So it wasn't like he hadn't already tried to mentally restrain it. He made the mistake of restraining and then swinging. If he would have just kept restraining and they would have seen this crazy girlfriend of his keep coming at him, it would have been a whole different story. It would have been, hey, look, I got scratched up. Hey, look at the video. She kept coming at me. Yeah, I eventually got out of there, had to leave her at the hotel. I got in my car and I walked and I drove away. Like, yeah, that sucks. But here's the thing. In a war, I hate to say it, but and I'll say this. Whoopi Goldberg, I forget what show she's on. She does either The Talk or the Super.
View.
The View? Okay, thank you.
Or she was on The View. I know that she was looking at retiring soon, but go ahead.
Well, the point was that she was talking after the Ray Rice video had surfaced. All the women around her were saying, and this is why I say, and please, people at home, especially white America, please don't take this wrong when I say this, because I'm going to get a lot of hate for this probably. I like the type of truth that a lot of normal, everyday African-American people bring. They bring the non-sugar-coated fucking truth. They will tell you the truth about the matter, and a lot of people don't like it. Now, my fiance, I commend her for doing the exact same thing I'm talking about. If I do something wrong, I fuck up, or somebody fucks up, I'm not expecting to hear like I was with my parents or my mother or whatever growing up, where they would say, oh, you know, it's okay. Oh, there was this, there was a mistake. No, she'll straight up come out and say, Pat, what the fuck were you thinking? Or Pat, what the fuck is this thing? It's a call you out basis, because that's what needs to happen with a lot of human beings. And Whoopi Goldberg said it best. After the Ray Rice video came out, she did say, it is completely incorrect we think it as incorrect completely of a man hitting a woman. Great. She goes, but now that that's out of the way, and I'm not quoting her, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but now that we got that out of the way, the fact that she charged him head on like she was going to really attack him, if you're not willing to get attacked back, don't attack someone. If you have someone in the nature of football who their first thought is hit somebody, they're coming at you, get them, even if that's an excuse, you know, and he did it because he's just a bad guy and he knocked out a woman. I liked her point of, now that we got past the fact that it's – hello? Can you hear me?
You froze up.
Okay, here. Hold on. All right, can you hear me now? Yeah, I can see me. Oh boy, here we go again. Okay. So what I was going to say was, guys, is that she said, if you're going to hit somebody or you're going to attack somebody, don't expect just because you're a female or the opposite sex that you have the freedom to do that, because they can't do anything back. I don't believe that at all. So I'm glad she said it. Guys, I am going to end the interview, and I'll quick up with another one. All right, guys. Oh, there he comes. Hey, what's up?
Hey.
So I recorded. So that was recording the whole time. It didn't freeze on my end though. So at least this end did not freeze up. So I did say that the point I was making was, at least Whoopi Goldberg did say, if you're a female, you're of the opposite sex, just because you think in your mind that guys are told they can't do anything about it, so I can do whatever I want, that is an incorrect way of thinking too, and that needs to be taught, mothers to their daughters. Hey, don't just go attack somebody because you're mad and you see red and you think they can't do anything to you, because you're going to run into the one person who will fucking do something in return, who will defend themselves willingly, and that's not a good thing. So I'm glad she said it.
One of the most underreported victims in the world are men or boys because of the stigma and masculinity.
Yeah, you have to be masculine, right? You have to.
What I do like is, the Gracie way or the jiu-jitsu way of handling. I love some of these videos that they have put out, some of the younger Gracies, about how to handle some of these conflicts. So that the emotional, and I love the meditative, the getting out of a heated situation and resolving it before it escalates into some form of, a crime out of passion, so to speak.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and I'll readily admit this. I know this is bad to admit on a podcast here and on an episode, and this will be great.
This is the truth.
Especially when I put this thing to audio podcast as well on Podbean later next month. I guarantee you guys will be shocked to hear this next thing. So I have had it where I've had people that my daughter's mom has, pointed a knife at me, has gotten crazy, has gotten that way where she's tried to jump on top of me and start hitting me in the head. I've had some crazy altercations with that woman. And to think that, with that case and I'm trying to circle back because I accidentally involved Ray Rice in this whole conversation, but the whole thing was, if you're going to own up to it, you need to own up to it. If it's on video, you knock the woman out, or in Floyd's case, you hit the woman, You beat the woman in front of your kids as well. And that doesn't really matter. That's an extra level of bullshit added on to make you feel worse for the woman in the situation. But the real bad, terrible reality is he beat his wife. It wasn't, she attacked me, I beat her. No, he beat his wife in a fit of anger.
And jealousy.
And on top of that, his kid was there to witness it all.
Right.
So that it just piles up on him. So I don't care, he can make as much money as he wants. I don't treat him like an even human being to me. Like I said, I don't see eye to eye with him outside of the boxing ring. I just don't see eye to eye with him. And a lot of people that like Coach Kavanaugh, to me, yes, everybody else sees it as he's a personality, or Conor McGregor's this big personality and he makes all this money, so he's got to be revered up here. No, if I get Conor McGregor on this show, which I fully intend to, if I get him on this show, I treat him just like you and I are talking. It's just like you and I are talking. It's it's a professional interview setting, but he's my equal. He's not older than me, barely. He turned 29 in July. I turned 29 in October. He's not that much older than me. Okay, guys, he's a great fighter. Okay, this is what I'm saying. He looks like he's going to be a great dad and a great, hopefully, husband if he marries Dee Devlin. He is going to be a great, they may do the Kurt Russell thing where they never get married. But still, if he's with his woman, he loves his woman, he loves his daughter, they're a good family together, and he's a great fighter in the ring or the octagon, whichever, and he's a great promoter and he can promote up and coming MMA and boxers. Okay, cool. That's a fucking life, man. That guy is leading an awesome life. That's awesome. But he's not better than me. No. By any standing. And that's why I think people, and I know he doesn't think that either. I think thinks he struts his stuff and he does his walk out to the ring and things like that in life. But I don't really think, unless I talk to him and get the impression otherwise, I don't think he thinks he's better than anyone. I think he knows the value of hard work and being humble. And after, like he said, being humble and after victory or defeat. And I think that would translate into an interview with he and I, because we're the same age. I mean, he looks older than me. He does. But he's got the beard. He's a grown man like I am, but he's got a beard. He can actually grow a fucking beard. And yeah, so there's other things that make him look older than me, but we're the same age. And he's about to step in the ring with a guy who's almost 41, who has boxed. And I'm not just saying age for age in boxing years. He's boxed for 21 years. If you box for 21 years, the end of those 21 years, your head's kind of a little, yes, he's gotten caught a few times. Yeah, his legs might be a little bit weaker because he's an upper body guy, a core guy. And he used to be a knockout artist in his early career until he decided, hey, I'm taking too many of those. I'm going to go ahead and be a defensive fighter.
Hand issues are also
and the multiple hand surgeries. Oh yeah, he's at the end of him. Like he says, he goes, oh, this will be my last one. Guarantee it won't be if you lose to McGregor. If he loses to McGregor on Saturday, he will ask for an immediate rematch, guaranteed.
Back to the drawing board, huh?
Because he'll be 49-1. And he wants to end, and then his message will be, but I want to end with 50 wins. It won't be, I want the undefeated record. It'll be, I want to end with 50 wins. So he may not fight McGregor again. McGregor might say, go fuck yourself and meet me in the octagon, you little bitch. And, words like that just to intimidate him. And Mayweather will never take that payday. You know why? Because Mayweather will be the B side in that match.
And that's what drives me nuts about boxing people too, talking about choking and getting tapped out, and how dare they even they have zero business bringing that into the equation. They don't know that fighting. They have no idea what that's. No, they have no idea. And if Conor got a hold of his neck, he'd be tap out, tap out, tap out. I mean, if he felt even a second of not having air, being choked out, he'd be tapping away.
Well, and that's why you can tell where the weak human beings are. Now, Conor, in his defense, yes, he has tapped out 3 times in his career. Those are his 3 losses.
Sure.
in the in mixed martial arts. That's
You don't
fine.
need to black out to, he knew he was done. He knew it was over. There was.
Oh, he got caught real quick.
Yep.
But I will say this. With Floyd and Connor on Saturday, we see it going. Well, you and I both see. Well, hold on. Let me back up a little bit. What do you see the realistic outcome in your mind? What is it?
I have such a strong belief in Connor, and the doubt is not there. The fear is always there because I'm so invested in him and his legacy and what I want. But the truth of the matter is, Dana White, infamous. He always goes back to the line as I stopped doubting Connor a long time ago.
Yes,
and I truly did too. Like, because at first I was like, what is this guy about? Even back in Cage Warriors when he won his feather and then his the lightweight is when I started to get my eyeballs on him, and then just calling shots like Babe Ruth. But where he's at, just reading even the team, like watching lots of where they're at, their vibes, you can't fake that energy. And I do believe we will see Connor at least put Floyd down once in the first round. And that's going to be jaw-dropping. People are just going to be going out of their minds, all these doubters. He's not going to touch him, not one punch. All that stuff is going to be answered round one. And then I can see in round two, I can see him finishing him in round. I really can. In round two, I can see him knocking him out. His team throwing in the towel. He's just taking too much of a beating. Maybe it won't be out cold. That's one of the things Connor gets criticized because he doesn't get all the time like a pure knockout. Sometimes it's a TKO stoppage before it gets to the knockout. But Connor has the touch of death, and I believe he can get it right or left hand. I've seen him do it. These combos. Look at Alvarez, that 4-punch combo before he ended it. I mean,
well, really, and honestly, only 2 out of those 4 punches at the end really like connected. So if you really go back and watch it, he hit the 2 lefts are the ones that really hurt Alvarez at the end. He hit him on the side of the face, and the side of like the ear, then hit him with a little bit of a right, then came up and bashed him on the side of the face again with another left. And as he's falling, he barely taps the front of his face with a right. So I'd say probably 2 out of 4 landed, but they were both lefts and just killer lefts. Yeah. And I mean, that's how he's finished most of his opponents now. He's finished
just to hit him when he's falling at that trajectory, like like even falling backward. Just the fact that he has that timing and precision. And that's like the Connor of old now. Like Connor would whoop that Connor now would take that Connor out. And that's a scary thought.
Yeah, Connor now with his precision would put the featherweight against he might put him out the featherweight that fought Marcus Brimage. He might. I mean, the Marcus Brimage fight, I mean, he missed a couple of the shots, but that's because Marcus Brimage got tagged with an uppercut and then kind of swayed backwards, which Connor wasn't expecting. So he missed one of his like hooks. But other than that, I mean, he was dominant at the very end there. 1-2-3 against Brimage that put his ass down and then started smacking him on both sides of his face. So I'll say this. I think that he finishes him in the 3rd round. Like I said before, I think that he takes the first 2 rounds to really get to know him. And that way it's like a full MMA round to really get to know Floyd, what he's going to do, kind of get that feel, like he said, about the stepping back and being afraid, and see what he's going to do. And then in the 3rd round, he just, for 3 straight minutes, unleashes hell on Floyd. and puts him away. I mean, yeah, I do see him getting dropped in the first 2, but I don't see him getting like a 10 count in the first 2. I see the third round being that final, like he putting the stamp on it in the third round. I hope it's quicker than that, honestly. Yeah. I hope he puts him out in 30 seconds. I hope he walks in the ring and just one left and he's done. And then it's funny because Mayweather says he has a granite chin. He really doesn't. He just has arms. And I'll say this jokingly, but he has arms of steel. So when he gets hit, he grabs onto people. Yes. Or when he gets hit, he runs and bounces. He doesn't. If he had a granite chin, he could trade punches with Conor. I haven't seen him in any of the fights that gave him issues in his career. I've never seen him sit there and trade in fights that actually gave him issue. He ran away from the issue, and that's what he's going to do against Conor. The problem is Conor, precision-wise and timing, is too good for Mayweather, I think. And that's what's going to catch up to him as he tries to run away after he gets clocked the first time.
And imagine Floyd trying to hold on to him and try to grapple with him for a quick rest.
What's he going to grapple with him for? And that's what I said. That's what I said. And somebody else, I forget who I was interviewing, said, do you really think who was I talking to? Oh, God. I can't remember who I was talking to, but there was someone I was talking to that said, do you really think that – Oh, that's what it was. It was at one of my friends, one of my fiance's friends' birthday get-togethers, their 40th birthday. And one of the guys said, do you really think that a guy like Floyd, who has held down better opponents and stronger opponents than Conor, will somehow not be able to contain him when he tries to wrap him up? And I'm like, yeah, because Conor gets out of some nasty shit. He's gotten out of a guillotine that wrapped around in Chad Mendes, which Floyd can't wrap around his neck like that in boxing, but took him down to the ground and wrapped his neck like a freaking alligator, and he got out of that. So I just don't see him getting caught up in too many grappling because, no, in boxing, yes, that is – boxing is like the soccer version of MMA, and I'll say it like this because there's a lot of flopping. There's a lot of extra shit they put in there that favors one over the other. So if you want to, you can hold for a few times. If you want to, you can hold them. I think there should be a rule where you can't fucking hold your opponent, that if they're on you, you have to somehow get out of it. And if you can't get out of that, then you're done, and the ref has to call the fight. I don't think that – because in MMA, somebody grapples you, somebody holds on to you, normally that knee's coming or that elbow's coming. So, Floyd's lucky that Conor agreed to do this in a boxing ring. And then when he does end his career on Saturday, I don't know. I mean, and Dana said it best. What excuses are the critics going to have then? Right. What excuses are they going to have? Are they going to say he's too old, he's too slow, he's just coming back for the money? Are you going to make all those excuses for Floyd once he gets knocked out? Because Conor knew all along, has been telling you for months, fuck Floyd Mayweather, he's too easy, I'm going to take care of him. And if he does that on Saturday, like, what are they going to say? There's nothing they can say. And if they try to spin it, I need to have you, I need to have Coach Kavanaugh back on. Hell, if they spin it, I'm going to try to reach Coach Kavanaugh, see if I can't reach out to Dana White and Conor McGregor and get them on to really set that record straight. And if I can't get to either one of those guys, Conor or Dana, then I'm going to reach out for Ariel Helwani, because I do see a lot of excuses being made for Conor or for Floyd when Conor does end him, because it is, and it's what I said to Coach Kavanaugh. Floyd is trying to set this up verbally to be a win-win for Floyd because he said, well, we're both fighters. At first it was. Conor won't take the contract. He's a little bitch. Then it turns into, the tickets aren't selling too well. Yeah, he's a great fighter, though. We're both good stand-up fighters. And then it's, I'm going to knock him out. This won't go the distance. Make up your fucking mind, Floyd. Conor's been saying the same shit for months. You just got on this fucking train. You don't have that backup in your system. You don't have the tapes from 6-8 months ago that back you up all the way to now. You are just making this shit up as you go. And that's where, like you said, you see fear in him. And I do. I do, honestly. I think he's afraid of being an almost 41-year-old guy who is a boxer who will get into an all-out fight with this man on Saturday and is not ready for a fight. He's ready for a boxing match. He's not ready for a fight. He's not ready for the type of ferociousness that's coming at him. Like Conor said, it's not a thing that he's dealt with before. And when he has dealt with slightly hard punches, he's either shied away or held on to somebody. So it's not, and the thing is with Connor's not going to come through on his punch. You see the angles in which he knocks people out. He knocks people out walking away from him. He's knocked people out. Think about that, walking away from them. So he knows that he can snap his wrist. Everybody makes fun of that limp, style of training. But what he's doing is he's warming up his shoulders so he can snap off and hit you with a hard left. That's what he's doing. So when he comes over the top, so people, Mayweather fans, Todd, my best man Todd, don't be fucking surprised on Saturday if one of those lefts comes and snaps up, and then everybody said, how did that happen? Oh, I guess it's that style you made fun of in the gym that really worked for him.
Yeah, the style that goes from a hook to a straight in the blink of an eye, because he does those exercises that allows his shoulder that movement. That movement training, that's just yet another layer. See, Floyd's used to cadences. He's used to rhythms. He's used to boxing, so that he knows how to stop that. He's not going to know how to stop relentless movement and coming from all types of pictures and arts and stances. And Conor is in the best shape. And Floyd's propaganda about him and the weight cut thing is a bunch of BS too. Conor's in the best shape of his life.
Yeah, he needs IVs. The guy's got IVs. He tried to say at his club at 4 o'clock in the morning that he made Ariel Helwani wait all that time just to get a fucking 30-second interview or whatever it was. That's terrible. That's absolutely horrible, dude.
Even if he was 20, which he's not, even if he was 20 pounds over yesterday, let's be real about MMA fighters. It's not uncommon to cut buttloads away in a quick time, water and otherwise, and then put it back on and hydrate. But Conor's got the best team around him, and they have been working for boxing, not MMA, for a boxing pace and that diet and cutting weight the right way. And he's going to deal with truly a 170-pound gorilla in there. And Floyd is not going to be able to handle it. And where are people saying Floyd hits harder than Conor? Where is that crap coming
Diaz from? Hits harder. Nate Diaz hits harder than Floyd. And Nate Diaz couldn't knock Conor out.
Right.
It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. I give Nate Diaz a better boxing fight chance. I give Diaz a better chance in a ring with Floyd as far as pure boxing and just like dragging it out on the ropes, because Nate Diaz doesn't get tired. I mean, he just doesn't. He doesn't get tired, and that was proven because he didn't get knocked out by McGregor in the second fight. He had to lose by decision. So he took at 3 out of 5 rounds of punishment from Conor and still stood up at the end and was waiting to get his hand raised. Like, that's insane. But with Conor, it's a knockout artist over a cardio machine, I think. Now, you say his cardio is great. He's in the best shape of his life. That's great. We can talk all we want about it. But honestly, if Conor doesn't get him finished in the first 6 rounds, I see him gassing at 10 through 12. I really do. Oh, yeah. I just do, because he's not going to be ready for it, because rounds 8 or 9 is when the end of a championship MMA fight would be happening. And yes, there is the fact that he could, if he doesn't keep up an amazing pace, he could actually sit and rest a little bit and kind of catch his breath for a second, or he won't gas out until after 12. So that could happen. So be ready for that too, guys, though, out there. Be ready for that. So if Conor doesn't knock him out in the first 4 to 6 rounds like he says he will, or like Kavanaugh says he will, you may see him try to get a second win and kind of catch his breath a little bit and sit there and get ready. And then, 9 or 10 through 12, try to get that elusive knockout. Like, that may happen. You might see a boring round 7 through 10, or 7, 8, and 9, if he doesn't get the knockout by 6. So just mark me on that too, because I can't wait to see that fight and then have my predictions come true.
And I totally respect your position. The only thing that, I would counter that is I still believe in his cardio. I think that his cardio is improved so much, even since the last couple fights. I mean, he's even light years above that. I really believe it. I think he can go 12 rounds all day long.
I hope so.
The only thing that I could see as the only shot that Floyd would ever have to tire out, and it wouldn't even be a tiring, it would be those body shots. If Conor can't protect the body and he somehow can just keep working his body, we all know what that outcome looks like, especially in boxing, and how many TKOs come from liver shots and body shots. And that could be a possibility, but I'm not even letting my mind go there. I'm just so...
Well, his last knockout, Floyd's last knockout, and then we got to move on because we do have to move on to the next subject here.
That's okay.
Floyd's last knockout, real knockout, was 10 years ago. They say he hasn't knocked anybody out since 99, but he did have a knockout of, Ricky Hatton in 07. So he did actually knock the guy out. So it isn't true that he hasn't knocked anybody else since 99. He knocked somebody out a decade ago, though. In his early 30s.
But yes. So Hatton did get up, but I know what you're saying.
Right. So he did what he did against Ricky Hatton. Okay.
And then he sucker punched.
And he sucker punched a guy in like 2013. So it's not, or 2009. So it's not necessarily a terrible thing, that he hasn't knocked anybody out, but to come in here and talk like you're going to knock out this kid who is 12 years, you're 12 years his senior. There's no way.
And the pressure from the boxing, all his boxing friends are like, you better not come. So of course he's got the pressure of saying that too.
He's got the pressure of everyone on his back,
and now
including Vegas itself. So
will he march forward?
He will maybe in the first standoff.
Who backsteps
and then he'll become defensive.
Do you think he backsteps first or Conor backsteps first?
Well, so I don't want people to mistake out there. When Conor steps back, it won't be a back step. It'll be a hop to set up another shot. It won't be a back step to defend. It'll be a back step to set up another shot. It won't be a back step to defend. So just mark me on that too. It will not be Conor backing up in defense first. It'll be Conor maybe backing up to come at a different angle for a shot. But he won't back down from that first standoff with Floyd. Floyd will be the first one to back the fuck off. You know why? Because he'll get clipped with a left or a right, and he'll learn, shit. I might be in a little bit of trouble in this fight. So let me kind of back up a little bit.
So Floyd talkers don't confuse a foot change as a back step if he's doing it for a striking purpose.
Yeah. Watch Jose Aldo's fight against Conor McGregor. What does he do? He's bouncing up around. Is he really stepping back? No, he's waiting. He said he's gonna pull up that right arm and he's gonna overhook it and come up with it. He's gonna overpump it, and he did. What does he do? Lefty gets him before he comes back with his left. Just knocks him senseless. One shot. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see that same type of Aldo movement in the very beginning of the Mayweather fight. I wouldn't be surprised that, without the kick, obviously, because he did kick him in the leg real quick.
Right.
But minus the kick, that same long stance, like almost Bruce Lee-ish movement.
Bouncing.
Like Jeet Kune Do movement. It is. It's almost like that. So he's got that movement and that stance. And I think that he's going to have that, and he's going to watch this, okay? Watch one thing in Conor's movement. When he steps up, watch for his right hand to be here and his left hand to be hanging. Because what's going to happen is if Floyd comes at him with a right jab or anything right-handed, all he has to do is, with that motion of people making fun of, he's going to snap that left up, make a little bit of a turn because he's so far in front of Floyd. He's got his legs so he can kind of step back and take a shot. Don't be surprised, guys, if he knocks him out in 30 seconds because Floyd makes a mental error trying to box a guy who is really just there to fight, not to box. I do think Floyd makes the first mental error. I don't see Conor making a mental error in the first round. I don't see it. I just see Floyd trying to go toe-to-toe for like 10 seconds, learning the hard way not to go toe-to-toe, and then backing up and defending. if he does that at all, if he doesn't just get up there, give one little jab shot, and don't confuse jab shot for standing in there with Conor. If it's a little duck and jab shot, which Floyd loves to do, he holds here and jabs but turns his head away and gets you like a little in the stomach, and then he'll back up and do his defense. So don't confuse one shot for he's going toe-to-toe with Conor. Nah, if he really went toe-to-toe with Conor, this match would be over very, very fast. Because Conor is the harder puncher, is the more precise hitter, and there's just no way that he'd be able to stand toe-to-toe with him. So, yes, he says he wants to give the fans what they want to see, and if that's true, Mayweather, walk in there, put your hands down, walk to the middle of the ring and get knocked the fuck out. And that is what the fans want to see. They want to see you go down and tarnish your record at 49-1. That's what they want to see. That's why everybody's betting 95-5 on McGregor. That's why, just because you can make more money by betting on McGregor with $100, that's fine. But still, it used to be you had to bet 2,500 on Mayweather to win 100. Now you only have to bet 400 on Mayweather to win 100. So it's not, the odds are nowhere near as stacked against you as Mayweather fans as they were before. So go ahead, bet those few $100 on Mayweather, and then when he gets slept, give that money to Vegas. Next topic, the topic I wanted to get into, because it is about 10 to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time here. So, and I know I do have to go somewhere in about the next hour. So,
okay.
We'll cover this topic, try to make this a little briefer, and then we'll get into our last topic. So,
okay.
This next topic, obviously, like you were going to say, you're going to put your input on this. It's the NBA and where LeBron ranks in the top 5, or does he? And that's the biggest conversation throughout a lot of things happening, especially with the Kyrie Irving trade, with Golden State winning 2 out of the last 3 titles against the Cleveland Cavaliers, with Jordan having 6, with Kobe having 5. What are your real thoughts and opinions on this? What is your truth? How about that? What is your truth?
My truth has been this ongoing debate since he was coming out of high school, when there was so much hype surrounding him, and I was already immersed as a diehard Lakers fan since I was a little boy. 1979, I started following Magic's rookie year.
Nice.
And they happened to win the championship that year. When Kareem went out, Magic led the team as a rookie. But anyways, I never knew that I could like another player. Like, there's no other Magic. And then I met Kobe. So here comes, years later, LeBron into the mix and all the hype. And so then years and years of debates on who is the better player, stat-wise, skill-wise, clutch-wise. So many different little debates. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to championships. I mean, on a lot of levels, like who can actually win the championships, and if you wanted to go with that, then you got the Russell, who he leads them all. I wouldn't say he's the best player of all time. You got Jordan 6, Kobe 5. What's LeBron now? 2, 3?
3.
2 with Miami and 1 with Cleveland. And how many of those championships coming from the Eastern Conference, I might add, key piece here, Eastern Conference, a star player like him, you would expect him to be in the finals, especially with the teams that he's had stacked around him. How many finals has he lost? From the Spurs to Golden State twice to.
So he's been in. Let's and let me count them off for you real quick. Ouch. So before he went to Miami, the first time he was in Cleveland, he lost to the Spurs. There's 1.
Right.
First year in Miami, he loses to Dallas. There's 2. He wins 2 championships in a row and then loses to, I believe, the Spurs again. There's 3. Then he comes to Cleveland and he loses, and he comes to Cleveland and he loses the first time against the Warriors, 4. He wins the last 2 years ago and then acts like he's the messiah of the NBA. Then goes back up against, for a third year in a row, goes up against Golden State, loses again. There's 5. He has lost 5 times in the NBA Finals. Yes, he has been to, 2011 to now. He hasn't missed a final since 2011. And he's won 3. So that's not terrible.
No.
He's lost 4 and won 3. So in 7 NBA Finals in a row, he has lost just under the majority. He's just about a 50% guy, which isn't terrible, right? But the fact that people want to compare him in the same breath of 7 in a row, where if Jordan never would have left the NBA for 94 and 95 and most of 95, had he never left, who's to say the Bulls don't go in and win in 94 and possibly 95? Now, not saying Jordan then stays in the league until 98, though, but I still see 6 championships in his realm, if not more. But you're talking, 91 to 93, he wins 3 titles. Jordan with a good team around him, though. He did have a good team around him. So 91 through 93, he won 3 in a row, though. LeBron hasn't done that. I think the last team to do that was the Lakers, the three-peat. The Lakers three-peated.
Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah, Shaq and Kobe. The Lakers, and they had a great team around them too. Shaq and Kobe three-peated. LeBron hasn't yet. He got not really close. He didn't really get close because the last year in Miami against the Spurs, it wasn't a close series. The Spurs kind of took over and really shut his ass down and shut the whole team down, who supposedly was the best team in the league. They went and shut him down. And then he comes up against these Golden State Warriors that they have out right now. And this new-look Warriors team is crazy good. And I do feel like the Warriors are a lot like the 90s Bulls. They're like, in a way, they've got a couple people with their certain weapons, but their weapons that those couple people have are so good, they can't lose. They just can't lose.
And their team.
And I would say, yes, and a team. And I would say clearly, and I don't say that a lot of people like 3 or the starting 5 for Cleveland isn't a team, but I'd say that if you put the Cleveland starting 5 against, and now not minus Kyrie Irving, but if you put Cleveland's old starting 5 a couple of years ago when they won the title versus a Golden State starting 5, I still don't see. And in Golden State, I truly believe just fucked it all up in 2 years ago when they lost and they were up 3-1 in that series. I don't know, they fucked it up, and it did say a little bit about Golden State's demeanor. They did, after being up 3-1, they lost. They lost Draymond Green. They had some issues there. Supposedly Cleveland regained the momentum and ended up winning only in the last 1.5 to 2 minutes of Game 7. So it really wasn't that series was not as close as everybody wanted to believe it was, or that the Cleveland Cavaliers are as great of a team as everybody thought they were, type of deal, because that was only a one-time deal. They lost 2 years, or they lost the first time, then they won, then they lost again. I don't see this being an alternating year type of thing. I really don't. I think if
this year,
Golden State meet this year, Golden State wins. I don't think they win 4-1, but I think they win 4-2 or something.
Do they get past the Celtics?
I don't see it go 4-3.
Did they even get past the Celtics this year?
Are you? Yes. I believe so, because I think seeding wise, I don't think the Celtics are going to be. I don't think it's going to be Cleveland, Boston. I don't think it is. I think Cleveland or Boston is going to be. Well, Boston would have to be like an 8 seed or a 7 seed, and I don't see that happening either. So okay, you're right. So it would probably be an Eastern Conference final between Cleveland and Boston, and if that happens, I do see this year at least with Kyrie trying to get used to that and asking to be the guy, like Isaiah was trying to be the guy in Boston. Yeah, I think that it takes them at least a year to get used to that, and even if they meet in the Eastern Conference Finals for whatever reason, which I don't think they will, but if they do, because you got to also think, oh no, the West is Houston, never mind. But yeah, if you think about it, it's going to take him at least 1 year, I think. if they meet this year, Kyrie loses out. And then everybody, and watch, the media, everybody was going to trash Kyrie. He couldn't beat LeBron. Why did he ever leave? Blah, 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 motherfucking blah. But what's going to happen is the very next year when Kyrie and that team is solidified, oh boy, he's coming for LeBron in that crown of best in the East. So, and the Bulls aren't going to do anything. The Raptors are kind of falling off. You know, all these teams that had maybe 2-3 years ago had a good chance at running for the Eastern Conference Finals are kind of all fallen off, and now it's going to be Boston. It is Boston taking over, and it's Boston and Cleveland are holding up the top 2 spots right now. And then you got the West, but you've got a much tougher Western Conference. I mean, you have the Lakers out there. You have the Lakers out there. You have Houston out there. You have
San Antonio,
San Antonio, Golden State. You've got a much tougher road ahead for the Golden State Warriors because of trades. So I would say probably, you know, Golden State, I'm hoping they make it back to another finals. I'm not saying they will, though, and that's the sad part is they might not with all the trading. They might not make it back to the finals again. There might be a team that if they've got them down 3-2, maybe they don't let up like OKC did, a couple of years ago when they gave up the 3-1 lead to a Golden State. Maybe they don't give that up, or they don't go, get the series tied 3-3. They beat them 4-2. Who knows? San Antonio now has Derrick Rose. And people are trying to write it off, kind of like Conor against Floyd. Well, he's just this or he's just that. So what difference does he make? But last year alone, D Rose had some good numbers. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's that extra go-to guy on the outside when certain players of theirs are struggling. They go to D Rose on the outside or mid-range again to really put up some last-second shots and win him some games, late in the season.
And he's got a chip on his shoulder.
And that's the other thing. Yes, he now has a viable, if he stays healthy, he has a viable shot at getting to the Western Conference Finals. So, I see him if he stays healthy. That is the way to go. He stays healthy
under Pop's system,
and he wrecks them. And I would root for him because he's a Chicago-grown guy. I love D Rose. I watched him the end of high school. Watched him into his 1 year at Memphis. I watched him and I was very drawn in by it. And the fact that they said he's coming to Chicago, I was so excited.
Oh, I bet.
And then everybody else starts trashing him the minute he gets hurt. It's, oh, he's crap. Oh, he talks shit to the media. Oh, he does this. Did you not forget the first 4 fucking years of his career? This guy was MVP for almost 4 years. This guy had that kind of caliber of stuff before he got hurt. It's like talking shit about King Griffey Jr. from baseball. The first 10 years of his career were amazing. But when he got hurt in 2000, 2001 and he goes and plays for the Reds, oh, he's complete shit now. No, he's not. Yeah. He's still one of the best players you've seen in that past decade.
Still one of my favorite. Player. Still one of my favorite swings. I love to watch him swing the bat.
I tried to emulate his swing growing up. Oh my God. I could never figure it out. So I had to hold the bat straight up against my shoulder, but I tried to get the swing up here and couldn't get it. But yeah, he made it look so easy to drive out a home run. But that's what my point was. With LeBron, I'm not saying LeBron thinks he is, and LeBron tries to say to be humble. At least he says the right things, not like Floyd.
Yes,
he says the correct things, and you think he means it. He says, I'm not here for a record. I'm not chasing, Jordan. I'm not thinking about Jordan right now. I'm trying to think about how many championships can I bring? What can I bring to the city I'm playing for? And I think that was a very smart, intelligent response. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, yeah, I'm trying to chase it. And it does get a little weird, sometimes getting hounded by the media, or he could have turned on him like Barry Bonds used to, and stuff like that. He could have taken that approach, but he didn't. So I commend him for that part. Mm-hmm. But all these fans of his and all these media outlets that think that he's the greatest of all time type of shit, and he's not. I mean,
Rushmore,
because you can name your top 5. Here's my top 5 right off the bat, right? And I'll name one that I think you might not agree with, actually. Because this is all the ones that I've been able to watch tape on and I've been able to see, because I wasn't alive when Magic and Larry were going at it because I was born in 88. So I missed most of that. So what I saw was the end. The end, though, at the very end, watching basketball was the end of the bad boys in Detroit, and watching them try to climb to the NBA Finals or the Eastern Conference Finals, and trying to go against the now early '90s Bulls teams, and really the Jordan defense and stuff like that. The Jordan rules. So I caught the end of that. But when I look back at it, I would have to say top of my list, obviously, Michael Jordan. Second is Kobe. Third is Magic. And fourth is Larry Bird. There's 4 out of 5, and you're telling me the fifth spot's going to go to LeBron James? Guess who I'm giving that fifth spot to? I'm giving the fifth spot to Isaiah Thomas. He was one of the best ball handlers I've ever seen. And I know Kyrie nowadays is efficiency-wise has great ball handling skills, outstanding ball handling skills. But as the era that you could get fouled and nobody would call it on you, and there was more physical contact, the fact that he could dribble through the hole like that and do Derrick Rose type of stuff and Nate Robinson type of moves at that age and that era, to me, I put him in a top 5. If I have to make not a Mount Rushmore because there's 5, but if a Mount Rushmore-ish type of monument to the 5 greatest, I'm putting Isaiah number 5. I'm not putting anybody else but him number 5, because there's been plenty of other great players. I can't put Wilt Chamberlain. I can't put all the tall guys that basically could tiptoe and dunk. I mean, I can't do that. The fact that he put up 110 points in a game, I really can't say anything good about it because he's so fucking tall. If I was 7 foot something, I would expect to put up 100 points in a game. Give me the ball. If there's nobody at that point in time in that era of basketball, if there's nobody that can even touch me, then yes, I expect it. Put it up in my hands. I'm going to put it in the basket. I'll score the 100 points in the game. That shouldn't be too. If there's people that like Jimmy Butler that could put up 60 or 70 in a game, how can you not believe that a tall guy that can just dunk without leaving the floor can put up 110? You know what I'm saying? So I think he was a great player, but I don't count him as one of the best. I just count him as one of the tallest. Shaq, I know you're a big Kobe fan. I don't credit Shaq with a lot of things. I don't. Early on in his career, before he came to L.A., yes.
Orlando.
Early on in his career, when he was a thinner Shaq that was actually like physical and physical as a thin tall guy. That's what I give him in Orlando. But when he comes to L.A., I lose all respect for it because it just kind of – he had a great team around him. He had Kobe, a young Kobe. He
D-Fish.
He got – right, there you go. Derek Fisher. He got bigger. And of course you're going to expect a 7 foot tall, big guy to power his way in. Not that, and then they turn around and he's one of the best centers of all time. How? He's a big guy. He's a huge guy. Is Joakim Noah one of the best centers of all time? No, nobody talks about that from the Bulls. But and now I think he's on the Knicks now or wherever he's at now. But he was on the Bulls for a number of years, and he's a great player. Defensively, he was amazing for quite a long stretch. He was really, really good. And then he could power it down and defend and help assist and stuff like that. But he could still mid-range shoot. He could still free throw shoot. He could still, which is another thing, free throws. But he could still free throw shoot, and he could get in there and be physical, but as the skinnier guy and sometimes the smaller guy out of the two centers. So I don't give Shaq all that credit because I've seen somebody smaller than him do a better job. But I will say,
Tim Duncan may have it over, in terms of
Duncan, yeah.
Over and I'm a diehard Laker, but I may go with Duncan.
Although, would you give David Robinson the honors over if you're going to put a fifth spot and you don't put Isaiah Thomas in there, and it's between Tim Duncan and David Robinson? Would you put David Robinson or Tim Duncan?
I would actually go with Duncan, even though Robinson set the bar. He set the tone. He showed that he did leadership. He really instilled leadership and skill. There's definitely the skill, but I think that Duncan took it to a whole nother level.
I gotcha. Yeah, so I could see the argument for that. I could see the argument for Duncan being in the fifth spot. Do your top four kind of mirror my top four?
Yeah, I mean, Kobe, yes. Jordan, yes. Magic, yes. Who did you have at four? Did you have
Four was
Kareem?
Bird.
Oh, that's right. So, believe it or not, I have to go with Kareem, the all-time leading scorer.
Oh,
The all-time
so
leading
you go with
scorer.
Kareem over Bird, and then put Duncan in the fifth spot.
That's where I would have to go at this point. And I know they're
I'm
so
surprised.
interchangeable. It's so hard. I mean, that is so tough. But to put LeBron there, I just can't do it. I'm not. He's a physical specimen. He's a talent. He can drive it. He can put it home. But there's some innate problems that LeBron brings. He can definitely lead a team, but he can also rub a team. Like, why are some of these teams that he's had, even super teams, why aren't they still together? Like, what is going on? What's the common denominator? Why did
Yeah.
Kyrie go? What
Yeah,
was
why did Kyrie go? Why did he not
Dwayne
stay
and
in Miami? Why did he leave? Well, we know why he left. And honestly, we know why he left Cleveland in the first place, the first time, because he didn't have a good team around him. He really didn't. He was
right?
trying to carry a team, although there were some good players here and there, but not enough of a full team of good players around him that could win a title with him. And that's the thing is when people say, yeah, he carried that team, which I hate to hear. I hear it a lot. I hear
Yes.
that LeBron carried that first Cleveland team that went against the Spurs, that he carried them to the finals.
Mm,
How do you carry
you don't.
another 5 or 4 people to the
You
finals
can't.
with you when you've got people coming off the bench, you've got subs in, you've got regular, starting 5 players, and somehow you're the only one supposedly that carried that team to all the way through an 82-game season, all the way through 3 rounds of playoffs, and somehow got to, or was it 2 rounds of playoffs, and then the NBA finals. And yes, I'm surprised he even got that far.
Maybe a game like Kobe used to take over games. He had to put up 80 something to beat Toronto. Had Kobe not put up 81,
A game though, a game, one game,
right? One game.
not 2
That's what I'm
series and
saying.
82 games.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's impossible. He had a team around him, and they gelled.
They did. And apparently they did, because if they wouldn't have, they would have never made it to the NBA Finals.
And a younger, more humble, maybe, and not the LeBron super because see, the one pass that I always gave LeBron is his respect for Kobe. I loved that about him. He always went to bat for Kobe, but he always was out to get him too, and Jordan.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and just remember the Chicago Bulls in 2011 were 1 game away from forcing then super team Miami Heat to a game 7 in the series.
oh, I know it. I was rooting for him bad.
That's pretty crazy.
It is.
That's pretty crazy if you think about it. And then people wonder why D Rose got the MVP that year. It's all because they had put in their blood, sweat, and tears all season. They knew that they weren't going to let this new super team get in their way. Fuck these guys. Who are these guys?
Exactly.
And that's kind of the thing. Yes, in the end, they did get beat and they did lose the series. And LeBron and the Heat went on to lose to Dallas of all people in 2011. But I think I would have loved to have seen Chicago-Dallas. That would have been a great series. And I think Chicago might have come out of that NBA champions that year. But the fact that they couldn't get the job done, and that was their best shot at getting, as a Chicago team, at getting to the NBA Finals, and now they kind of have no shot. But I just think that with LeBron, it's not LeBron himself. It's the hype that everybody tries to instill around him, as I think what kind of cloud we're trying to break here.
No, you're right.
Open up the skies for people a little bit, open up the clouds for them, and let them see that, hey, it's not like you think it is. It really isn't. Look at the real facts here. You can put numbers all you want, and the fact that he broke Jordan's all-time playoff record of numbers, great. But how many more seasons did he have to play to break that record of numbers? You know what I'm saying? Jordan had the record, but in less seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And he barely put up any points. I mean, in the playoffs, I think it was in 2000 or 2001 when he put up with the Wizards. I mean, he barely put anything there. There wasn't really much there. So
No.
really his main scoring was anywhere from 91 and 93, or I'm sorry, 89 or 90 all the way through 98. So just take that. Just take that if you want to. 8 or 9 seasons. Just take that, even though he was off for like 2. Just take those.
The 6 championships and then
six titles in 8 years. So take all that playoff experience, and it took LeBron X amount more games to do that. So that tells you something right there. And I will say this. Yeah, I know I'm not a huge overall Laker fan because obviously they're from the opposite conference of my Bulls. So, yes,
Sure.
if we ever met in the NBA Finals, of course I'm going to want the Bulls to win. But since that hasn't happened in a long time, I will say, if the Lakers get their shit together in the next season or 2, I don't see any reason why they can't be competing for a Western Conference title. Not that they're going to make it to the finals, or if they get to the finals, not that they're going to win the finals.
Right.
Because now you do have a Celtics and a Cavs team that could get there. And if they get there, one of those two teams could, I would say, easily put away the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying sweep, but probably like 4-1. As of now, as it exists now, and even if they do get Paul George, as it exists now, the Lakers would not get swept by the Celtics, but they would get beat 4-1. They might get swept by Cleveland. But you have other obstacles they have to face, other things they have to overcome. So it's a whole new thing. That's really, I'm almost running out of topics on that one.
Well, it'll be cool to see that even that rivalry come back alive once again. It seems like the stars are aligning for that to happen. The old Celtics Lakers rivalries.
So there was one more other than that. I mean, so you and I don't put LeBron in our top 5. We both see Mayweather getting knocked out by McGregor. So those are the first 2 topics. There was a topic that you wanted to bring up. What was it?
Yes, and of course, I think you and I could both talk on many of these topics for a long period of time. Like,
yes,
there's much that we talked about prior that didn't even make it on air. It was brilliant conversation, and I really do appreciate a lot about you and getting to know you. And I'm glad that you addressed the human element of the guest. And the human element of us all being on the same and equal playing field. I think that Floyd Mayweather missed an opportunity with things the way they are right now, even with race during this whole thing, to make it about race. And Trump, terrible timing to address things how they've been addressed when they could have de-escalated some of that.
Are you talking about the Charlottesville?
With the whole Charlottesville.
Oh boy, yeah.
That's a can of worms. But I guess what I'm saying to you is there's things that you bring to the table as we all are our own unique selves that Connor would admire and couldn't do, and you do have a golden voice. I listened to your voice. That was one of the first things I noticed is you have a very unique voice, and not just in sound. The sound is nice, and it's definitely radio friendly and plays well, but the actual person behind the voice. And one of the things that you voiced that gave me a ton of respect right off the bat as I was scrolling down your Twitter account.
Okay.
And I noticed that you self-disclosed.
Okay.
About a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. And that's about mental health. That's about identifying that you were struggling one day, that you have some mental health issues at times, and that you got a lift up from someone that you admired, and it sounded like it came at the right time that you really needed it, and you shared that with the Twitterverse, with the world. And so many people need that message to say it's okay. It's okay to come out with, yes, I have mental health issues and I'm not crazy. I can still function. I'm a human being. I'm not less than. I'm still on equal playing field. I still have my own talents. And yes, there's a lot of suffering and challenges that I have to overcome that maybe some might take for granted.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that about you, instant respect. I started, not trolling your page, but certainly, I've been coming to your page a
You have
lot.
been coming to it a lot. You have been retweeting. You have been liking a lot of stuff. You have been commenting on YouTube videos that I've put out. So I saw all that. And that's instantly why I thought I could get along with you, because I think I saw a little bit of myself in that, and like, hey, he likes what's going on, and he did comment about the mental health, the mental illness comment that I made about Kevin White, and for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, there was on Twitter. This is a couple weeks ago, I think, and roughly. And my fiance was having her family reunion downtown Chicago, where all the Bears stay at before their preseason games and before their games at Soldier Field here in Chicago. So we were sitting there waiting for the bus, waiting to take us to an architectural tour. And I have bipolar disorder. I have anxiety disorder. So I'm very on edge a lot of times. Very nervous, very depressed a lot of times. So going into that and not knowing a lot of her family, and she didn't even know some of her extended family because they're from different states and she has never met them before. So she didn't know them, but she's a lot better at faking things than I am. So I was very, very down and trying to figure out, okay, what's going on? How am I going to act about this? And am I going to actually even enjoy myself today because of how down I feel about all this? And not to say that I don't like her family. I love her family, but it's not in me mentally to be excited, like naturally excited. So
put on a show.
But like on a show, like now, and I can be excited and, hey, how you guys doing? And welcome to the Just Chill Truth JCT official. I can do that, but
Right.
It's not. That's not genuine. It's really now all truth all the time. What I mean by that is it's an honest truth. I can curse, I can say what I want, and I'm not gonna be sexist. I'm not going to be racist because I don't have that I don't have that mental intention. I just don't have it. So that's why a lot of things I say, yes, it is the truth. And don't think just because I'm apologizing or saying something as an introduction to one of my comments that I'm, oh my God, he knows he's being racist or sexist. No. It's just that I'm trying to clear it up for people that are going to get a misunderstanding about what I'm trying to say. So I do that ahead of time just as kind of a disclaimer to all the ignorant idiots out there that don't know what I'm trying to say. So what I was saying is that, the Bears were staying at that hotel, and Mark Sanchez, one of the backups for the Chicago Bears, you have Mark Sanchez, you have Kevin White, who is a wide receiver for the Bears. You have, a few different players, all the offensive, defensive linemen. They were all coming down the elevator, and I saw Kevin White, and it took me a minute to remember who he was because I looked at his face and I was like, man, he looks familiar. And then it took me a minute, and I realized it was Kevin White, and I looked him up then, and I showed my fiance, and I was like, hey, that was one of the star wide receivers that got hurt the other year. They got the first-round pick from like 2 years ago, and I'd love to meet him, but he just went up into the elevator. So we go back around, and she has to go to the restroom. So she goes around the corner, and I'm sitting there alone with her family, her extended family, nervous as shit. And she comes around the corner and says, here, Patrick, come this way. So she goes, Kevin White is right here. I want you, if you're going to take a photo with him or you're going to ask him for a photo, do it here, away from everybody, away from all the other attention. Do it right here and be nice about it. And I was like, no problem. I'll be as kind as I can. So I went up to him and I asked him, and originally he was going to say no because he didn't want to be bothered before the preseason game. He kind of looked at his family, and I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry to bother you. I know who you are. Can I please get a picture with you? And he goes, like that. And he looks at his family, and then he turns to me and he goes, yeah, sure, okay. So he comes up, he stands up. Dude's tall as fuck, by the way. I'm 6 feet taller than I am. He's got to be like 6'3", 6'4" at least. So he stands up and he takes the picture, and I said, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Sorry to interrupt you. You guys have a good day. Have a good game. And I left. That was it. I didn't draw any extra attention to him. I let him go back to chilling with his family. I did the same thing I'd expect. If I got somehow big on the internet or on sports debating and I go to Chicago and somebody recognizes me, I'm not going to be like, don't, leave me alone. Unless for some reason somebody's trying to walk me to like a meeting, I might be like, hey, how you guys doing? Or do a little wave and, hey, how are you? And while I'm walking, if I have to go somewhere. But if I'm just walking around the city and someone was to recognize me, this is why I say it's just human being versus human being, no matter how much money you make or what you do for a profession. If I was the lead guy at ESPN Radio, ahead of, let's say, and I never will be, I love Mike and Mike, by the way, I love Mike Greenberg. But let's say I was the head guy at ESPN. I still don't take that. I don't care how much money I make. Guess what? I'll remember the days I was doing the fucking podcast. I'll remember the days that I was doing this other stuff and grinding out to get to that point, or to hope that one day I'd get lucky enough to get an opportunity like that, And so I just take that into consideration every time I see somebody say, like you said, man, I love the way you tell it. I like that you tell the truth and you're, no BS. And I like it because as a peer, you're complimenting me, but at the same time, I took it and then kind of flipped it on. It's like, okay, well, it's just another compliment. I'm just a person. I'm just doing a show. I don't even get paid for this. And even if I got paid for this, I wouldn't have taken that comment any differently. Mm-hmm. And I think that people misunderstand, like with Kevin White standing there, I had tweeted out and I had tried to put on, I can't put it on Instagram now, but I had put out, that with my bipolar depression and anxiety running rampant throughout that day and really, getting me down, the fact that Kevin White was out there and nice enough to actually take time away from his relaxation before a game, before putting his body out on the line to make money, and to support his own family, he was nice enough to step aside and go, I'm not bigger than this whole situation right now. I'm going to step aside and take a picture. He kind of had that air about him at the very beginning when I thought he was going to say no. But then the fact that he changed his mind and said yes, and came up and took literally 2 seconds out of his day to pose for a picture and put his arm on my shoulder and then walk away. And I walked away. That's it. That's what it really is about. That's what it's about. You need to take everything in life, I guess. Not me, because I can't speak from experience, because I am depressed most often during the days and at night, because my mind gets going and it's hard to sleep. So yes, a lot of times, yes, I am. I'm anxious and depressed. So I say for everybody else out there dealing with it, though, if you can hit that, and I'll say this, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I told one of my buddies, and I won't name names because I know he won't want me to use his name, but one of my buddies that hangs out with me otherwise outside of this said, I'm going through a lot of shit right now. I'm going through a tough time. I'm going through a lot of shit, and I don't know how to fucking deal with it. And I said, man, you have to have a fuck it button. And I did mean it. You have to mentally have a fuck it button, because if you don't, it's over. If you don't, that's the end of your life, because people will walk all over you, no matter what it is, family or friends or relatives or coworkers or bosses. They'll walk all over you. So if you don't have the fuck it button, if you don't have that F it button, you can't survive in life. And I think one of the only reasons I'm still around, and I know this is kind of scary talking about this now for some people watching, but one of the only reasons I'm still around is because I do have that ability to, even if I'm still depressed after I say that, after I think that, I still have the ability to, I guess, and I hate to say like a glutton for punishment, but I mean, yes, it is. Bipolar disorder and anxiety disorder is mental punishment day in and day out. I'm not going to lie. I just think that I don't think that this show may not go 2-3 months down the road. This show may not go a year from now. I don't know. I don't know is the honest truth. So I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know what kind of entertainment I'm going to put on for people and what kind of guests I'm going to get on the show as in the future for interviews. I have no idea. But what I do know is in the real world, outside of all this, I have to in some right have that attitude, because if I don't, I mentally just die. It's over. It's the fabric of my being. It's over. I don't have any more will in my system. I would have to quit on life entirely. And not saying that I haven't thought about it plenty of times, but it's, I was weak enough to, and this is another thing, I was weak enough to attempt suicide 4 years ago. But now I'm strong enough to say, fuck it. And I think I'm stubborn enough to say, fuck it now.
Yes.
No matter what I think of what I tried to do, and do I necessarily agree with what I did? I can't really give the honest answer on air because I think people would hate me for it. But do I regret what I did? I can't say. Do I think about doing it often? Yes, on a daily basis. Have I learned how to deal with thinking about that on a daily basis? I guess, in a way, because I'm still here. If I didn't somehow deal with, and this is mental toughness, I guess, in a certain way. If you don't learn how to deal with it and I'm not saying being depressed all day is dealing with it, but I'm saying if you don't learn how to say, I'm going to still be here tomorrow morning, or you don't somehow get to that next day and you can't see the next day even happening, if that's not even in your vision, then it's not there. It doesn't exist. There won't be a next day for you. It doesn't exist.
You will get swallowed up.
You do. You get swallowed up in it and you're done. And I'm not saying that it's not. Here's the issue I have with mental illness. I can see it from both sides' point of view. I can see it from somebody who's like a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist or therapist. I can see it from their point of view where they're saying, isn't there something you can live for? And there's many examples I can make for you and da, 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 da. I can see it from their perspective. But somebody who said, when someone's family asked them, why did you attempt suicide? And was it really worth it? I hate that fucking question. Because my own family has asked me, and this is personal information, and not a lot of people have ever heard outside of my family until right now. Even my family has said to me, aren't you glad that it didn't succeed? And my true answer is not really. And I can see why people would take offense to that. I could see why people wouldn't like that answer. And then they could think, well, why are you still around then? Then what are you doing a podcast for? What are you doing a sports show for? It's kind of for my own entertainment, to be honest with you. It really is. If you think about it like this, guys out there, if you think about it like this, 4 years ago, I lost everything. And I attempted suicide. It didn't succeed. And I've been to mental facilities 6 times now it's been 4 years since the first time I was hospitalized, just over 4 years. Actually, it's been about 4 years since the second time I was hospitalized ever now. But just over 4 years since the first time. And I've been hospitalized 6 times. And then that's the one thing I want to say. For people that are out there, don't ever listen to somebody that's just talking on a radio show. Don't ever take it to heart too much about what they're saying. Now, if they're trying to be uplifting, they're trying to help you out. Okay, I understand. But for me, I'm just delivering a message. And the message is, on this subject, the message is, I can see why people think that they need to do it. But in the majority of cases, I would say, especially in the reasons being because of what I was losing when I tried, the car, the house, the family, my daughter, my job, everything was going away. So really, I'm starting from ground zero with nothing, no transportation, no nothing, no house, nowhere to go. What the fuck am I going to do? And I panicked. And my one thought, because of in all that depression at the time, was, this is how I'm going to take care of this. So, I would see now that I'm not necessarily a factor in a lot of people's lives at this current moment. Okay, why am I still here was kind of my question. But in the majority of cases, people that do attempt suicide are surrounded at the time of their suicide attempt, are surrounded by a support system. And when they do, it's because they personally feel trapped, but they do actually have that support system around them. So I will say that if you have a support system around you, you have the people, don't ever, and I can't, the thing is, I can't, because I've tried it, I can't condemn it. That's the biggest thing I think I'm trying to get across is I can't condemn the suicide attempt. I can't condemn it. You know why? Because I've tried it. Because if I've tried it, I can't do something and then tell other people, you know, it's just not the right way. It's just don't do this and just listen to what Pat says. And I can't do that. I'm an okay motivational speaker at times, but not on that one issue. Other issues, yes. Other issues, how to handle if you're not considering doing that, but you're having a hard time dealing with mental illness, then yes, then come talk to me. Then come talk to me, because then I can tell you, hey, you know, this is kind of what I'm doing here. I'm not necessarily, you know, I've taken a different route that other people kind of condemn. And I've, you know, maybe here I was taking my meds and then the next couple of years later I wasn't, or whatever happened because of the laundry list of meds I was on and blah, 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 and the multiple hospitalizations. So come talk to me about that, because that I can tell you was a fucking mind trip. Like, it was a trip. But I'm still here. It's August 24th of 2017. I'm engaged. Here's the positives out of this. I'm going to court in September to fight to see my daughter, and I love her very much. I am engaged, and I'm getting married next year. I just bought, with my fiance, I just bought my first house, my townhouse, my first townhouse I've ever owned. I run my own show. I do a gaming show for younger kids, and I do for older generations, and my generation included. I do a sports and entertainment show. Not that I need to keep any of this really up. I don't need to keep any of the sports and entertainment show or any of that up. I could walk away tomorrow and be perfectly okay with sitting at home watching ESPN on TV. That honestly could be okay. Do I like doing that? No, because when I'm stopped being depressed, not that I'm never not depressed in some rank, shape, or form, but it's a level to it. So when I'm motivated enough to go do this kind of thing, it's a nonstop thing. Once you get me hooked, it's hard to get me unhooked until like severe depression kicks in. But it's hard to get me unhooked because I'm just ready to light the world on fucking fire. And it shows you, like, anybody who's dealing with mental illness right now or any kind of depression, any anxiety, you know, like you said, adult ADHD, anything, you're dealing with something and it's really getting you down. Just look at it like this. And I know everybody has, so I don't have the disadvantages that everyone else has where I go to a job. I don't go to a job 9 to 5, you know, Monday through Friday. I'm at home all day. So I can afford to do these shows and do the research and if I need to step away, I can take time off. But that's why in those cases, you kind of need to level the playing field a little bit and maybe go see a therapist or go see a counselor, because honestly, that's the only way you're going to be able to mentally level the playing field when you do have those other responsibilities nagging at you right in your face and you can't step away. The step away mentally for a second to really reassess things is going to be with a counselor, with a second voice. That's not your wife or your husband or your family member or your whatever or your coworker. It's not going to be one of those guys. It's going to have to be a counselor, because those guys are trained, guys and girls are trained to work things out with you. You bounce that shit off of them, they're trained to work things out with you. So definitely go that route, because with me, no, I'm not currently seeing a therapist. Yes, starting next month, I'm trying to get things back in order where I'll be able to see one. But honestly, look at it like this. Like I said, there's positives to this. I have a show. If you have a true mental illness, if you are seriously suffering where you cannot be in the workplace, and you know you cannot be, if it's in your state and there's disability or there's whatever for mental disabilities, and there's disability through your state like there is for me in Illinois, you know, I hate to say take advantage of that, but really look into that at least. Yes. Look into something, because guess what? I would have never thought about that because I was not raised that way. I wasn't raised to look for the easiest way out. I was raised to do something, and even if you hate what you're doing and you're suffering because of it, keep suffering because of it. And that's kind of the way I was raised. So and then I was diagnosed with this disability in 2013, the second time I was hospitalized, and in August of 2013. So it has been 4 years now. So then I was diagnosed and put on certain medication. Now they had to obviously try out different meds, like everybody knows. And if they know anything about mental illness, there's not just one fix. If you get that lucky where there's the first combination of meds you get and therapy that you go to is the right combination, then you're a lucky motherfucker. But if you're not, and you're like the rest of us, it takes time. So I won't say that meds have necessarily always worked for me. I'm not saying don't take meds all the time. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying different shit works for different people. Different people are alive because of different reasons. Not the majority of people in America don't have, and I'll openly admit this. I hate that I sound like I'm tooting my own horn here. They don't have the mental constitution to put up with some of the shit that I put up with mentally on a daily basis. They just don't have it. But I've been through enough to this point that I guess you either mentally die or you harden to the point that you're not going to die. Either, it affects you in one way or another. Same thing with like prisoners of war, the torture, they got tortured in war, right? What happens to them mentally? Either A, they just completely shut the fuck off, or they harden to a point that they're able to survive that camp. And I'm not saying it's anything like that, but I'm saying they survive that camp and make it home. Now, I'm not speaking on how it was when they got home. I'm just saying, how did they survive mentally? How mentally did they survive something that is constant mental pressure? It's constant pressure, constant pressure, constant pressure. How do you survive that and move on? And that's it. Either it kills you mentally, or it hardens your senses. And I hate to say, in some respects, my emotions have been kind of hardened a little bit. I mean, I still love my fiance, I still love my daughter, but for the most part, and I talked to Matt about this, I don't get along with people that often. I don't really like a lot of people because I just see a lot of fake attitudes in people, and I'm the most honest person that I know, other than like that actually lives near me. Other than my fiance and other than a few other people in my family that I know that are completely 100% honest with their feelings. And if they're feeling a certain way, they'll let you know about it. They won't sugarcoat it. They won't BS about it. They won't try to put on an act. And I don't. And I think that's why people shy away from me, because if I'm in a crowd and I'm shy or I'm depressed, really depressed at that time, and we're at like my fiance shows, who knows? That's why people they don't kind of come near you. They just don't talk to you. Even if they could be sitting right next to you, but they don't talk to you. It's all about the stigma of, they're in a bad mood and they're this, they're that. So I shouldn't go talk to them, or I shouldn't even say anything to them. And that's cool. And honestly, I could get by either way if you say something to me or don't say something to me. But I just think that it'd be a smarter idea to really take mental illness seriously.
Yes.
Because if you don't, that's where people do, that's where the surprise suicides come out of. And that's where all these surprise situations come out of. And, Robin Williams, oh my God, I can't believe he killed himself, or I can't believe so-and-so committed suicide. And it's not that hard. That's not that long of a stretch to believe that. If you really knew the person below that mask of a comedian, or that mask of a hard-boiled person, if you really knew the person below it, and you knew the mental state, the shaky mental state of the person, then you'll know. Then you'll know what their real intentions might be in the future, and you can kind of you can guess that, and if you guess right, you might be able to save their life. But ignoring it is the issue.
Or judging.
Yeah, any kind of judgment. Exactly, any kind of judgment is complete horseshit.
And that's what people that want to ask for help and they're yearning inside don't even know how. They have never been trained, or conditioned to ask for help, and then have been burned by so many people. And how do I trust someone, especially phonies, that are just pacifying or giving me the superficial how you doing, but they don't really care how you're doing. All that, they don't really take the time. And
yeah,
one thing that you really have to do is check that judgment and look at yourself in the mirror, because we all have, even the healthiest brains has those thoughts, some more than severe. There's levels
Yes.
to this stuff for sure. What you just did, to me, is like groundbreaking, because you made it okay to be honest, because so many people need that voice. They need that voice to be honest about how they're really thinking about things, even a suicide attempt, and how they think about it afterwards, and being real about it without having to worry about going to 911 and going back to the hospital. You don't need to go to the hospital every time you want to get real. But you know what? There's a lot of therapists that'll send you right there if you try to get real.
Which is one of the reasons why most of the hospitalizations I've had is because I've been so depressed at the times that I'm going to the therapist appointment, that if I break down and say something like, I don't think I should be around here, and everybody has these self-doubts that are depressed like that, like to that level. Trust me, we're all having those doubts then if we're at that level. But if I say it, now it's condemnable by, we need to send you to the hospital. And honestly, at this point in my life, and I know I'm just shy of 30, but now just about a year and so away from 30 years old. But even being what some consider younger, I feel like I've lived out my life. So I don't think that to an extent, I don't think that hospitalization, even though you do sort of, and if you've been hospitalized before, it is true what they say about it being addicting, or it being feeling like that is a safe haven and you almost want to go back. And then even when you're there, even with the bipolar disorder and depression and anxiety, you feel like, oh my God, I want to get out of here so bad the minute you're in. And then the minute you get out, you want to go back. And it's just like, it's very confusing to your mental state. But I can fully understand why, like, people, like you said, being honest with people, being truthful with people. Don't expect me to say I regret attempting suicide just because that's what you want to hear.
That's right.
Don't expect it from me. Don't expect anything from me, because I'm a guy who will shock you from left and right. So please take into consideration, guys watching this, whoever watches this, take into consideration that it doesn't haunt me. Just hear that and really, really think about that. My attempted suicide does not haunt me. That's not what haunts me. The events leading up to it are what haunts me. That's like the PTSD sort of stuff. Almost. Yeah. Yes. The events leading up to the attempt is what haunt me. The things afterward, the phone call conversations I've had afterward, the situation with my daughter and how that family and how that all shook out, that haunts me. That shit keeps me up at night. That shit keeps me anxious at night. The thought of death doesn't keep me anxious. That doesn't matter. That depresses me sometimes. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't keep me up at night. If there wasn't like that PTSD, like you said, type of reaction to certain things in my brain, I think I'd sleep like a baby at night. Even thinking like they don't even make any sense. Some of the thoughts I'm thinking during the day that just kind of pop up doesn't make any sense half the time. Right. But if it wasn't for those thoughts, honestly, I could sleep well at night. And I think people would misconstrue that as, well, he doesn't have a mental disorder, or he can work, or he can do that, or he can do this. And really, no. I mean, there's a lot of shit that goes on that mentally, because of what has happened in my past leading up to now, mentally, unfortunately, I try to go to work. I try to work a job. And that's the one thing I hate, because I got the John Kavanaugh interview that I wanted. I may very well in the future get a Dana White or Conor McGregor interview. I don't know if that's going to ever happen, but I didn't think I was going to get the Kavanaugh interview either, and I got it. So the only depressing part about that is, I think, for me, is that I know I won't be the head of some local network. I know I won't be a radio or a broadcast personality at ESPN, because I've shown that I can't. That was my lights. I've shown that I can't hold down a job for longer than a year at most because of my antsiness and my thought process of like wanting to jump and go somewhere else and not being able to stick it out there, because if I get anxious or nervous or depressed, then I can't stick it out, and then I have to leave. And the thing is, if I deal with the depression and I have anxiety and depression at a job that I wanted to do, I used to work in radio. So if I have depression and anxiety majorly there, you know, what does that tell me for any other job I ever hold? So, you know, yes, if I got paid a livable salary to do this show and to interview people and to be represented, but sponsored by ESPN or sponsored by blah, 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 or sponsored by Coca-Cola or whatever, if I got paid a livable wage to do that, I might have to take it. But that's not realistic. That's not realistic. Realistically, this channel won't turn out to be anything, but you guys enjoy, the people that do watch it, enjoy watching the videos, enjoy watching my true opinions on sports and entertainment, enjoy watching me or listening to me bash on, you know, NBA players or NFL players or Trump or whatever's going on at the time. You enjoy hearing me do it. But how long is this going to last? And I hope it does. I really do. I really hope that this program and this JCT official podcast and show lasts for years. I hope it does. I hope I'm doing this in 10 years where I can see the progression and I can see the number of guests I've had on, and in 10 years, how many interviews have I done and da-da-da-da. But at the end of the day, it's still something I'm not going to get a salary for. It's still something I'm not going to get paid for. And it's still something that eventually, if I take little breaks from here and there, I don't, you know, if you do that at a company, you get fired. If you do that at anywhere where you make a salary, you're done. You're not even, you don't exist anymore at that company. So I can't afford to do that anywhere else but here at my home. I cannot do that. And I repeat that, anywhere else in corporate America, I cannot fucking do that. But I can do it here. Because guess what? My opinion is the only one that matters in this debate. If people tell me, yeah, you can't do that because, you know, you're letting down your fans of the show or the people that watch it, you know what? Fans are people are people. My guests, me, the people that watch the show, we're all just people. So this person just happened to walk the fuck away. It's not a huge deal. Happens all the time. You don't hear about podcasts and other sports shows that just get canceled. They're got a few runs of it on a late night talk show on actual TV, and then it gets canceled. Nobody bats a fucking eye at it. But the minute I leave with 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, everybody's making a big deal about it. I am concentrating on my gaming channel. Everybody's making a big deal about it, like I'm the you know, the sun and moon of the sun, the moon, and the stars of this organization, or an organization that rules all of sports broadcasting or all of gaming, you know, live streaming or some shit.
Everybody's feeding really off of you. Yes, it's
really ridiculous. We'll have to move on to either one more point or maybe a closing because it is 5:50 now. So,
okay.
Is there anything you want to say in closing?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that. You also, in a real, true way of your own way that's completely authentic, have shared your ways of dealing and coping and getting through things one day at a time and still keeping it real with where you're at. I think that if you continue to do that, continuing to at least do your best to put one foot in front of the other. And you're not always going to have those victory days. You're going to have days in bed and not doing this. And that's okay. As long as you never give up, you keep moving forward, and a cumulative effect can and does happen. I've actually worked in the field for quite some time and am a recovering person myself from mental illnesses and addictions. And I'm here to say that recovery does work. It's real. There are ways to cope, and life still sucks. It does get really hard. I just look for the little things. It's not the big enchilada. I've never been happy with a big check or anything like that. Little things. Conor McGregor, is a big thing, but to me, you know, from my perspective, it's a little thing, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of that, and I'll get a lot watching him knock Floyd the f out, like I have with being a diehard Lakers fan for so many years and not missing a game, and just things like that, just the little things, relishing in. And I find that the more you do that, they do add up, they do accumulate, and things for a moment don't seem so bad, and then it'll come back and challenge us some more. And so it is a process, and mental health is a real disease. I do want to put that out there too, that it's a true illness, it's a true disease. It's not a morality thing. It's not a quitter thing. It truly isn't. And we have a long ways to go on this epidemic. And I don't know that Trump's putting enough attention. That's one of my issues with Trump is what are we doing with the mentally ill, and what are your views on the addicted and some of we just throw these great people away that are no different than, you know, this thing doesn't discriminate. Everybody has some type of habit, hang up, hurt, and many people suffer from mental illness and addictions.
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, is if you can find the little moments, you know, and I've done that before. There's been that time, and this is honestly what I consider one of those. I mean, doing this is fine. It's not something I stake my life on, though, and I think that's the important thing is I don't stake my entire life on this show or my gaming show. I you know, if I'm having a bad day, you know, yeah, I do want to make good on saying to somebody, hey, I'm going to come in and interview you today, and I'm going to have you on for this May-Mac fight, or if there's another thing on about Trump, or if there's another thing on about, you know, whatever it is, other sports, especially since very soon NFL is going to be starting a regular season. So, you know, I don't think in October you have hockey and you have NBA. So, I mean, you have a lot of things going on, and the MLB playoffs. I mean, you have plenty to talk about, plenty to discuss. Music industry, I'm sure there's going to be another fucking beef and a fight in the next year. So, you know, there's plenty to talk about. So I don't mind talking about it. I just don't want people to. I hope people subscribe. So when I do put out a video, my whole thing is if you view the videos and you subscribe, so you can view the next video that comes out. That's all I care about. I don't really. I'm not going to promise you 52 videos a year. I'm not going to promise you 140 videos a year. You know, I'm not going to do any of that. But I do promise that every fucking video I make is going to be widely entertaining. You are not going to want to skip the video. You're going to want to, if you're an actual, you know, human being that likes entertainment, you're going to want to stay for the entire video. Whether it's this interview, whether it's the Matt Brax interview, whether it's the Coach Kavanaugh interview that lasted about 15 minutes, whether it's my first video, the new JCT podcast session that I did, my first ever video for this site, and it lasted about a half hour. If you watch that entire half hour, there's almost not a bit of fat on it. It's all entertainment for that entire half hour. There's all topics being covered for that entire half hour. Yes, I go on tangents sometimes, but who fucking doesn't? And I think that way more ground is actually covered that way. So I can answer your question one way, and I can answer Coach Kavanaugh's question another way, or whatever else. And then if we talk about 3 different subjects linked to that subject or that question, and it takes a half hour to get done or 45 minutes to get done with it, well, guess what? Now we just, you know, not only do we lengthen the show, but we also got a few other comments or issues taken down and tackled that weren't even on the forefront of our minds before. So I do like that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No problem. And this has been Matt Humphrey. I'm Pat Voss. We will see you again for another JCT official interview. I will have tomorrow for sure. I think I have a morning interview. It's another Mason Ball out. He is another amateur mixed martial artist trying to go pro very soon. And then at night is an old friend of mine that you guys will recognize if you were back from my late night mix-up days. It is Kente Ferguson. He is the Kente. He is the guy. He does a lot of producing and directing. He does a lot of film editing in LA. He takes care of a lot of different shows and podcasts, a lot of AMC type of shows like Talking Walkers. He does Talking Walking Dead. He does that. He does, Hell on Wheels, a lot of AMC shows, driven shows, and he does have some kind of affiliation with them as well. I know that because he has had like corporate heads on his show as well call in. So Kente Ferguson will be here tomorrow night. I'll do an interview with him, and then in the morning it'll be Mason, who is the amateur MMA fighter. We've had Matt Humphrey today. We've had people like Matt Prax, other MMA fighters, buddies of mine too. So we're going to have some fun, guys. Stick around for the greatest interviews. This has been another JCT Official, and we're out.
Bitch, I wanna party like